I gotta shrink a thing. Dude, sometimes you gotta shrink a thing. And that's just terrible. Whoa, is the quality terrible? No, it's fine. We're fine. We're great. I'm Technovoid. It's extremely hot. It is so freaking hot right now. Holy shit. Why is this so hot? Who made it like this? Why'd they do this? Summer's the worst. Anyways, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is a game that we've been playing for the past, like probably 7 or 8 months at this point. I don't know. We come and go, but it's finally time. We are here with the last part of the last trial, of the last case, of the last game in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It is a very exciting time. Welcome. In this part, we're going to take down the British government from the very bottom. So let's just do it. Let's just grab it. Just start playing from the save data. It should be fine. It's the resolve of Naruhodo. I am so sorry if I do not look great, because I don't feel great, because it's so hot. Oh. We're just going straight into it, huh? Just whole straight into it. Also, why is she here? So, witness, please state your name and occupation for the court.
Yujin Mikitama, lecturer in forensics medicine at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo, Japan.
Why is Gory here? Oh, did she love him? Did she have a crush on him? And Professor Mikitaba, the young lady beside you, is?
This is Dr. Maria Gory, Scotland Yard's practicing coroner, the daughter of Dr. Scythe, I understand.
Yes, Dr. Scythe.
I'm afraid I can't tell you why she's here. She just, appeared.
Hey, wanna say something? Wanna stop staring weirdly? Hello.
You summon this strange Japanese man as a witness to that autopsy. But you don't summon Mama. That makes no sense. But she was there too.
She's in jail for perjury, so yeah.
That's about the size of it. I've had her eyes bored into the side of my cheek constantly, whilst I was in the inner chamber too.
Poor man. The idea of it's making me shudder.
The revelations about Dr. Scythe that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary.
Yeah, you had a part in that, bitch!
She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings.
Because she'd fucking sell you out, bitch!
Ministry of Justice decision on that is final. Well, we wouldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would we?
He's got your number. Oh, the mask is on. The Ministry of Justice. Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think.
I remember you, Dr. Mikotaba, but I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances.
Yes, it's been a long while, Lord Strongheart.
The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London until 10 years ago.
Oh, that's right. I studied under Dr. Wilson at St. Sinners.
So you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks?
Who's on trial here? Me or you? I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure.
Mama is far more skilled than any Japanese man.
Whoa! Clamp down on the racism there, honey!
Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion.
And this autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe?
Yes, I noted all the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through the document and signed it.
Poor Mama. As secondary assistant, she wouldn't have had such a good view of all the innards.
Hate when that happens. Hate when you don't have a good view of all those innards. It's a real shame. So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson?
Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zeeks' autopsy would have never happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So Lord Strongheart had to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I'm wrong, my lord.
It was as a result of that autopsy that a mass murderer was apprehended and justice was done.
But Gregson admitted it before he was killed. He admitted that the results of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have an obligation to tell the truth about what really went on.
Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
And that is why I'm here too. You weren't there! You don't know anything!
Very well then, you will give your formal testimony now, witness. But before you begin, a word of warning. A word from our sponsors, Manscaped. Do you ever have any issues with your ball hair? I certainly don't, because I'm Lord Strongheart. You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord. The moment your testimony verges on supposition, I will expel you from my courtroom. Remember that.
He's just looking for a reason to chuck this guy out. He does not want this guy here telling the truth. The autopsy of Clint Van Zieks.
From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
There were no other signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all.
You weren't there, what the fuck?
It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant.
They just put a fucking piece of paper that said Genshin in this man's stomach?
No indication, nothing to suggest fabrication.
Professor Mikataba, are you certain about that?
Well, nothing that I could positively identify as such, much less swear to it in testimony. Well, that clears things up nicely.
The only fabrication here, Asoki, has come from you.
What?
You claim the inspector confessed just before his death,
But that is the fabrication.
No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did.
freely, with the tip of the sword at his throat. The man was clearly at his wit's end. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Van Zieks' death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of this matter.
Damn, that was a quick second half of the case. Let's go. Roll the credits.
If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon. Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats.
Oh, such horrifying crimes.
But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Clint Van Zieks, suffered a different fate.
Yes, you're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword.
That's enough. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promised to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of supposition or speculation.
Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination.
What?
I have the right to cross-examine every witness after the testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right.
Ryunosuke.
I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law, as I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree. Van Zieks, could you be any more obvious about hiding the fact that you're a bitch?
Very well, you may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution.
Yes, my lord. Alright, I guess that means we get 1 health, probably.
From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
No other signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant.
Hold it!
What exactly was it, though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean?
Well, it was sparkly and round with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger, perhaps.
A ring?
Okay. It was a ring belonging to Genshin Ashogi.
My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach!
At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the digital quadrus of his...
Why would you just say fucking ring finger, dude? Don't try and be fucking cool about it. You're being a dickhead.
I'd understood it was some sort of keepsake.
I just realized something. I will be right back. I'm so sorry, everybody. I just realized I was so into this, I never put up my fucking studio light. Actually, idiot. I was wondering why it looked so weird. I was thinking, man, the green screen today looked a little wonky. I was a little wonky. I thought, man, maybe I was having a bad hair day or some shit, but no, it's fucking forgot to set up part of my streaming equipment. Actual dumbass. Ah. There, that should help a lot. Can't believe I forgot that. Back to adventure!
When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. Never learned how to read, just like Jared 18. But I remember that ring.
You do? I don't.
My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but his ring wasn't among them.
Obviously not, it was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger where it had been pulled off. They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes.
How could they?
I brought the ring along with me today.
What?
Damn, here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that in 10 long years.
And that was found inside the victim's stomach?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
You hesitated there, Professor Mikitaba. Should we read something into that?
Well, it's just that thinking back now, I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body.
Oh my, really?
At that precise moment, Dr. Wilson had asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see.
Damn.
Dr. Gory, the removal of historic evidence from the stores requires my consent. Does it not?
This man's gonna put everyone in jail. However it came to be here, the court cannot deny that this is crucial evidence for today's proceedings.
Very well, you may submit it.
Oh boy. It's not the sort of ring normally seen in Japan. They almost look like claws protecting that jewel. Let's take a look at it. What's going on with this ring here? These fat claws are doing a good job protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring.
Yes, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I should think.
Ow! Now my finger's bleeding. The claws really are sharp.
Oh my, that was very quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruhodo, even for you.
Who would make such a dangerous ring? You couldn't swallow without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely.
A sticky mochi bun of about that size would go down much better. With some red beet paste in the middle.
Someone as clumsy with me would probably manage to choke on it somehow.
We must examine it very carefully, Mr. Naruhodo. Very carefully indeed.
I just did.
Assumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way postmates, blah 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 blah.
Hold it!
And that was the decisive piece of evidence that led to Ryunosuke's arrest?
Correct. After further investigations by Scotland Yard, the man admitted to his crimes.
That's a lie! My father was no killer. Barak Van Zieks, it was you! You twisted the truth to suit your purposes.
Your hatred of me doesn't change the facts that were established 10 years ago.
My brother Clint had closed in on the professor. In the end, he exposed the man and put a stop to his lethal rampage. In the way only a man of my brother's caliber could.
That's everything. Is it?
Poor father, he looks so troubled.
Perhaps because 10 years ago, something happened that's been weighing on his mind.
Oh,
I couldn't say were his words. That phrasing was very deliberate, I'm sure.
I wonder if he's had his suspicions all these years.
If that's the case, we need to use this cross-examination to prove what really happened, and remove any trace of doubt.
If we could establish the Cosmos claim of fabricated evidence was true,
We can't shy away from this now, even if what we might uncover could lead to total calamity. What? What up?
Hold it!
You couldn't say?
No, sadly not.
Then stream's over, I guess. I don't know.
But then you couldn't say that there wasn't any indication either, could you?
No, true, I couldn't.
Then I'm gonna go work on R&R.
I was at Dr. Wilson's site as he performed the procedure, recording what he did. But at times, of course, he instructed me to fetch implements and such like. Whilst I was away from the operating table, obviously I could have missed something.
And at those times, what was the secondary assistant doing?
following this Japanese man's orders to adjust the lighting or pass some implements. But that doesn't mean Mama wasn't a vital part of the team.
Quite, yes. So would you kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that?
Professor Mikatama, think! Was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you?
Well, yes, there was, as a matter of fact. Death resulted from a wound made by Western side.
Hold it!
In all the previous 4 killings attributed to the professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe? Their throats were, well, mauled?
Correct. And yet Lord Van Zieks was stabbed.
Ah, do you mean to say you think Lord Clint Van Zieks may not have been in fact been one of the professor's victims?
There is no basis on which to doubt the findings of their investigations carried out at the time.
But
Genshin Isogi confessed to all his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted to having taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy. Yet the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog.
A true hound of hell.
maybe it came from the Baskervilles. Oh, there's some internal injury. Do I? No, fuck, I didn't mean to press there. I wanted to look at my court record. You weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gory? Yeah, okay.
Does that matter?
Well, I just wonder how useful your testimony could be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother, Dr. Scythe, were in the stand, but...
I've read all the paperwork about the case, and Mama's told me the story countless times. The statement I just made is exactly what's written on the autopsy report.
I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal trauma.
I see.
Mama told me all about it.
Oh?
She said there was nothing of note internally. But they did find an amazing piece of evidence, something unbelievable.
Unbelievable? What do you mean?
Come on, Dr. Gory, what was it?
Like, literally unbelievable. I don't believe it. It's a fucking fake. It's a fucking lie. Okay, so no signs of internal injury. I find that hard to believe if you swallowed this shit.
Objection!
How you gonna fucking swallow this ring? The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach, but you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotaba?
That's right. As I said in my testimony before, at that moment I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested.
In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not.
What are you suggesting, counsel?
That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy.
What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson...
That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it in there and then in the victim's stomach.
Objection! Supposition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim?
This evidence, right here.
That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in that report, counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual is noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point.
Quite simply, you've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all.
What?
To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. And in addition to its size, there are the sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with.
My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that the evil killer was brought to justice.
But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma.
No! My brother's throat was made of iron! Fuck you, Naruhodo!
And there you've arrived at the sticking point. And that's precisely why I had my doubts about the findings myself 10 years ago.
Then why didn't you say something at the time?
I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day.
Look at this! Now this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotaba?
Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size with those sharp metal claws that it has, surely you'd expect to see the damage to the throat and esophagus, torn mucous membranes at the very least.
Dr. Mikotaba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you.
I'm terribly sorry.
I can think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down! So I was right! Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father.
Man, it's all prove this, prove that, whenever you're against me. But now that we're on the same side, you're like, oh, let's fucking do some supposition. Fuck you, Kazuma. Baby bag bitch.
I'm disappointed, counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation.
Thank you. Thank you, Strongheart. For once we agree on something. No fucking double standards. Everyone needs proof.
What?
Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There is no scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion.
Pardon the interruption, my lord, but... damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects.
Using a device called an endoscope recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay.
I don't think so, and Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished.
Cabelliot has arrived!
We open up the dead to find the truth.
I beg your pardon.
But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up, with all her secrets inside. That's wrong.
Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama.
Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident.
What incident?
The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have. Of Genshin Asogi saving my life. What? My father saved your life? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden...
Don't make a peep, you're coming with us.
all of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring.
Ah, are you saying...
I've always believed those thugs were after me, but now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack, and in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found.
You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think that's where those thugs were after that night?
Objection!
Dude, you need to get over it.
You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring! You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested.
Get him, Naruhodo.
Kazuma, open your eyes.
Ryunosuke, come on, that's racist. You know my eyes are like this.
You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this?
Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial?
Oh.
In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merrily closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate.
But then...
Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then...
I mean, does that really strike everyone as so odd? Like, I mean, he fucking knows he has no chance. The government is against him.
That surely would mean there was no fabricated evidence.
An obvious conclusion to which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Ah! Genshin Asogi's silence in his hearing can mean only one thing.
There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago.
But if that autopsy was all above board, there will be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion.
Objection!
Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely.
Kazuma?
What's this latest absurdity, Counsel?
My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole.
I beg your pardon.
You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence, but there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death? If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
That's not true at all. Have you seen Kazuma? This dude's fucking loyal to a fault.
Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that two people with a connection to the autopsy, have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me.
Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can only show that there was a reason for his father's silence in that trial. A reason why the man would have said nothing, even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps?
Enough rhetoric! The court must be shown evidence! What proof do you have that could possibly explain Isogi's silence in court?
I mean, I guess this, right?
Take that!
This is the defense's answer.
Oh, fuck.
As I indicated before, my patience for rhetoric is growing thin.
You could have at least accompanied that penalty with an explanation of why that answer was wrong. If Kazuma-sama's father knew that the evidence being used to convict him was fabricated, why would he have said nothing in his trial? If it were me, I'd have protested my innocence until I was blue in the face. So if we're right about the autopsy results, there must have been a strong reason for his silence. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this more thoroughly. Obviously not. This is irrelevant. Dismissal notice. This is about daily, right? Can you present a person? I don't think so. Negotiations? No, maybe. Maybe that? I doubt it. Yeah, it's not gonna be that. Not the police. No, that's not. That's irrelevant. No. This is Gregson's body, so that's gonna be irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. Indicative of a duel. Wait, what is this? Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document and corresponding ink was found. Vital evidence. Okay. He was saying nothing in exchange for some sort of clemency? Ah, that could be it. My lord, the defense would like to...
Enough rhetoric. The court must be shown evidence.
Okay, I'm gonna go for... Where is it? The dismissal notice.
Take that!
It's true that Genshin Asogi's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone.
Must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary.
I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. And Dr. Scythe was the one who broke him out.
Order! Order! First fabricated evidence and now a jailbreak conspiracy.
Yeah, you know all about it, buddy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand.
Witnesses?
People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Ah. Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison.
I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce, to summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord.
What? Father?
My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pated at times, but I can assure you he's extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier. Asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vitchell to attend the Old Bailey is a matter of extreme urgency.
Mr. Sholmes did that?
Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment.
Strongheart's like, fuck! Fuck! My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings.
Very well. Bring in the witnesses.
Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all. You got Caden in your pocket too? Van Zeeks is still fucking, he's always gonna be up there. Will the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please?
Oi, Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison.
Oh, everyone calls me Gossip. I steal jaunty little tidbits to test.
Your other persona, if you don't mind.
Oh, I do beg your pardon, of course. My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison.
The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called professor 10 years ago.
What? The professor? We've already been all through this before, a decade ago. And the conclusion was that when anything untoward happened.
A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you'd call nothing untoward.
Right. Well,
the convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed, and he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection.
If it turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asogi out of your prison, then of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment.
Gats! Hold on there, laddie. All the Jewish. Witness, Governor Caden. Aye, sir.
You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country, a great responsibility to shoulder. The significance of your testimony, court, cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. My apologies, my lord. There is no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly, you were both involved in some way, so you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well. Let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Asogi out of Barclay 10 years ago. The jailbreak plot.
It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty. The director came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan into action behind the scenes.
I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot.
I didn't care if there were some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
Directive from the prosecutor's office. Are you saying that there was a jailbreak plot?
Why, that's right.
Who sent it? Who authorized that plan?
I didn't ken that.
You're saying you don't know?
Well, listen, there wasn't anything about that professor case that wasn't unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions. I just did what I was told to do. On that, I couldn't tell you.
I see. But if the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitting to crimes he didn't commit.
That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part.
So, let me ask the defense. Oh, yes, my lord?
I fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to a cross-examination?
Absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord.
It seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Very well. Proceed, counsel.
The jailbreak plan.
The Japanese jock was found guilty.
Hold it!
And you say you don't know who actually issued the directive?
Oi, that's right. All I can be sure of is, it was official.
But if it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows down who could have issued it straight away.
And it wasn't me. I can't even say we're saying it did originate from the prosecutor's office.
What?
There's no telling where it started. There's a fair chance it came from high up the ladder. Basically, I can't give you any indication of who was behind it.
You can't be serious. All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from somebody in authority, I suppose.
The likes of us on the ground, as it were, didn't bother with idle speculation. We just get the job done. Well, I sent the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan in action behind the scenes.
Hold it!
So, Mr. Vigil, you didn't know anything about it at all?
That's right. My only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat. That's right, isn't it, Governor?
Some poor beggar had to take the rap for it.
And he became a poor beggar after that. Alright then, who else did know about the plan?
Well, I've not got the first idea, laddie. My part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who'd been given similar orders.
So you don't know who else was involved?
Boy, that's right. Well, I can tell you. is that the night it actually happened, the person at the range was Dr. Stevens.
Dr. Courtney Stevens? Or Dr. Scythe as she's known now? Why did I have to get caught up in such a terrible business? I was responsible for Asogi right up till the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. Did you not notice anything unusual happening in the lead up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual, exception after exception. After all, it was the professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head.
Hideous treatment.
The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who'd been taking the lives of 5 of the country's nobles.
Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can still hardly believe that I was duped by my own country.
I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you?
Ross Vigil, can I apologize enough?
No, Governor, I don't believe you can. It won't change what's happened.
And what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor Kate?
I indicated there were some negotiations between the convicts and the prosecutor's office.
Hold it!
But you've already acknowledged that the orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation.
Oh, well, be that as it may, I didn't care nothing about that. The witness stand had no place for telling what you dare now for sure. Oh, I couldn't that much I do.
And I presume you also know this. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense. So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. The man was still killed illegally, even if he was a condemned criminal. You may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. So, what's it to be? Is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence.
All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
Did you carry out the plan in its entirety?
Well, I did everything I could at the time.
As you know, Kenshin Asogi was shot dead in Logate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too?
My instructions were to do getting the joke away from jail and nothing more. Or can I tell you anything about what happened after that? Only, personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan.
Excuse me.
Mr. Vigil, is something wrong?
Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now? What is it? Some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country.
Just as my father was betrayed, it seems.
But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Asogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan.
What makes you think that?
Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind. But the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, why would there be any need for all the chicaneries of an escape? Ah. Yes, that's quite true.
If whoever negotiated with Asogi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence.
It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind the high prison walls. I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly.
Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me. if you believe there was some kind of negotiation behind the jailbreak between the Shogi and the party at the top, didn't it quite add up, does it?
Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have by amending your formal testimony.
Gotcha! Why, go on then.
He's fucking staring daggers at him. I love Caden. Caden's probably one of my favorite characters. He's great.
Hold it!
Admitting to the crimes, that was what he had to bargain with, surely.
I cannot say that myself. After all, did the prosecution know have conclusive evidence against Akali, eh?
This, you mean, discovered during the final victim's autopsy. There's every possibility this conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Objection! Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. You can holler about misconduct in the trial 10 years ago all you like. But if you can't establish that it happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen. Wait, that's right. So what I'm saying is, the convict had nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all.
The witness makes an astute point. Logically, it would seem no negotiation could have taken place. And yet the plan to break the man out of prison was definitely put into practice. So he must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate. So Sogi-san agreed to confess to the crimes because he was assured to be broken out of prison later. I really don't think that Kazuma-sama's father would have engaged in such negotiations. Perhaps something compelled him to agree? What a terrible thing, using the law to legitimize such underhanded dealings with a desperate man, only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice. I can't help feeling there's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up. Something doesn't quite add up, Mr. Naruhodo. No, it doesn't, but I can't quite put my finger on what yet. Well, in that case, we must keep digging until we identify the problem.
Alright. You don't give any plot. Yeah, we went through this, we went through that. Okay. What would he have had to bargain with? It still seems too early to present that, right? No. Couldn't really bargain with that. Wouldn't really be bargaining with that either, right?
Objection!
Okay, it's the papers. Confessing under oath the murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison, Genshin Asugi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British from breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyways. Oh, but if they did kill him and they had to send everything back to Kazuma, then they would have lost whatever he had. That's why it is. That's why it's his weapon. Because if he dies, then whatever the British want to keep gets sent back to Kazuma. Which means that Mr. Asogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon.
However, the fellow couldn't have possibly had anything like that.
But you know that he did, Governor. The Asogi Papers, the name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Asogi.
Oh!
Turns out that Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day.
You squeal, did you wee raw? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret?
You can't touch me now!
Gah!
When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder. Alright then, but what's on that paper?
A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
A weapon.
And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes, all the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Asogi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you?
Where?
Would I be right in saying that you knew that the so-called Asogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow?
Jinx, what the place are you blathering about? The will was found wasn't proper. And the fellow's cell right where I said it'd be.
But how can that be? Where in his cell? We all searched the place from the top to bottom.
Well, you didn't do a proper job, you peely-wally got out.
You can't criticize me now.
I showed it to your father, did I know, young lawyer?
Yes, you did. I have the document here. It's written in Japanese and reads, "The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi."
Which means everything is as it should be.
Not quite, my lord, you see. There's an undeniable inconsistency here. The ring was not sent back.
What? What inconsistency?
Mr. Asogi described this document as the only weapon he had left. And yet, this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage. Well, it's the fact that they would send everything back.
Are you suggesting, my learned friend,
Oh, that the papers were switched out?
the last will and testament stored at Barclay Prison after all these years is actually a fake?
Or that. As had clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board.
That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system. This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least sorely mistaken.
What? No! I definitely heard him say that, I swear!
Clearly, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi Papers.
A waste of time! If the will was fake, where's the real document?
Objection!
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything, very nearly his own life. And now you're gonna do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. It's clear that Barclay Prison is hiding something. It's clear that the jailbreak was masterminded by somebody in the prosecutor's office.
It's clear that some illicit negotiations took place.
Is your lordship just gonna gloss over these obvious and reprehensible facts?
What did you say?
They're saying let him talk?
It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well then, let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw in the convict's last will and testament.
Yes, sir, my lord. The Asogi Papers. As the warder responsible for condemned convicts, I attended Mr. Asogi and kept watch over his cell. The night after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something with that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail.
Well, I only found out about the Asogi Papers when a directive came to me to tell me to impound them. The document was in the folds of the fellow's robe that had left his cell. The kimono I took his court.
In his kimono? That's a lie! We searched every inch of the man's cell. We looked through all his clothes. It can't be true.
Were you not satisfied with calling me a liar once, you wayward finger?
There's nothing you can do about it now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. He's gonna fucking grab hold of you right now, buddy. Other than the hold you like to take on my cravat, of course. Is that what you're gonna do, is it? Are you gonna give me a good shake again? Are you too scared? Gah! He's not too scared. He's definitely not too scared. Little and large, what a double act.
We complied with Asogi's will as far as possible. All of his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. As a courtesy to the homeland of the most notorious killer our country has ever seen.
And we were much obliged. I can confirm that all my father's belongings arrived safely.
Boy, and you can engineer your handwriting is that of your man, eh?
Yes, there is no mistaking that it's my father's brushwork. Really?
And this last will and testament was the man's last weapon, was it? I think we can safely assume the convict was merely prattling, knowing that his end was nigh. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord.
Was the warden responsible for the comics act into Mr. Kentucky?
Hold it!
So that would mean that you're conversing with Mr. Asogi.
Yeah, certainly. I thought there were precious little time before his execution was due. He was remarkably calm considering his days were very much numbered. In all honesty, he really didn't strike as one man capable of mass murder.
Yet he confessed in full to the crimes.
Yeah, I know. That's why I felt compelled to ask him one day. I can still recall his reply. I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. But he was so tranquil and intelligent. It put me in mind of an Eastern holy man.
And what about the will you saw him with? What can you tell us about that?
It was the beginning of all the drama. I remember it well, yes. The night after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something with that will in his cell.
And he pleaded with you not to report him, didn't he?
Oh, yes, that's right.
And like the bum put your eye, you didn't tell me. A blatant breach of trust that was.
Okay, but you fucking set him up, dude.
I could see that the man had a noble spirit. I found myself wanting to treat him accordingly.
But according to what you told us 2 days ago, the convict had been strictly forbidden from having any writing materials whatsoever.
Yeah, you're quite right.
So what exactly was the will penned?
That was before the man was remanded in Barclay, obviously.
Yes, at the prosecutor's office under supervision of the relevant authorities. I personally instructed Asogi to make a will for the benefit of his family and his homeland.
In that case, why was it found in his cell?
What do you mean by that?
Well, if it was penned at the prosecutor's office, you would have expected that it would remain there for safekeeping, surely.
What?
It's curious. There doesn't seem to be any obvious explanation for why it was subsequently found in the convict's cell.
Oh, well.
The defense makes an astute point. Well, Governor?
A prison governor can't be expected to keep the inner workings of the prosecutor's office.
In that case, Lord Strongheart, perhaps you can shed some light on the matter. I'm unable to offer an explanation here and now. I would have to consult with the notary responsible for the will at the time.
Let's bring him in!
The fact that my father's will was discovered in his cell is clearly inconsistent with what was expected. I want to know why.
Another inexplicable mystery, then.
Well, the thing is about that will. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but no will.
It was the governor who ordered the search for the will, as I understand it. Is that right?
Yeah, when I was poor baby, we couldn't find it. He grabbed me by the cravat and yelled, "It can't disappear completely" in my face.
Boy, well, we still need the governor to keep everybody working as hard as they should.
I think the governor needs a wee taste of his own medicine, Mr. Naruhodo. The point is, it was clearly considered a very important document, wasn't it?
But it proved impossible to find.
That's right. Then before I knew it, it was in the morning paper. That blood-curdling article. The executed mass murderer who'd risen from the dead.
Oh, you mean... Their article based on Mr. Trevor's experience in Lowgate Cemetery. Yeah, that's it. The day after I'd read that news, I was summoned to the governor's office. And that's when the awful accusation was made. That you dated Genshin Asugi to escape from the prison, resulting in your immediate dismissal. I'm afraid I really don't remember anything after that.
As the governor of the prison, I had no choice. I couldn't have done anything else. I only found out about his shooting papers when a directive came to me telling me they didn't.
Hold it!
And that directive came from the same source as the one instructing you about the jailbreak?
From the top levels of the prosecutor's office.
What name was on it?
I didn't care for and I didn't care now. All I can tell you is that my orders were to do everything in my power to find that document. Director said it had to be somewhere inside the fellow's cell.
Document. Was that the wording? Document, not will.
That's what it said.
Am I clutching at straws here? I just wonder if it was really Genshin Asugi's last will and testament that the sender of that directive was after. Continue with your testimony, then, witness.
It was in the folds of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell.
Hold it!
And Mr. Asugi's kimono.
The one he brought with him when he was locked up.
Yes, he was permitted to have his personal effects with him during his incarceration, I understand.
That's right. He was granted as much freedom as possible then a few days before his execution.
Indeed, he had a number of items of personal significance, I remember. He was very reluctant to part with them. Some books, that kimono, his sword. His sword! Karuma, the famous sword of the Asugi clan. It bears the soul of my family. I don't doubt it, but I wasn't really getting at that. Forget it being the soul of the clan. Could the man have had a more obvious weapon? Have some respect, Ryunosuke. Respectful silence.
The warriors carry firearms at all times and the inmates have shackles around their ankles. It couldn't have hurt anybody with anything.
Still, he was allowed a sword, but no writing materials?
He wrote that will before he came to stay with us at Berkeley, you see.
Dr. Mikataba was asked to bring the necessary Japanese writing implements to the prosecutor's office. Let's have another look at Karuma, huh? Is the little fucking piece of paper in there? You guys forgot to take out? A Suzuri inkstone, black sumi ink, and some Hanshi rice paper, no doubt.
I was present when he wrote it, but I'm sorry to say, the letters just look like scarlet mass and jet black anagrams to me.
Excuse me.
Are you feeling faint, Mr. Vigil? Mr. Vigil? Sir! It was scarlet, sir! Oh, the writing was a different color. What? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to blurt it out like that. Did he use his blood? Less swaying and more explaining would be helpful. He said something about the testimony we just heard. Have you recalled something of importance? Something of importance? Possibly, or possibly not. I'm unable to tell which way he's leaning, I'm afraid. My lord, the defense asks that Mr. Vigil be permitted to supplement his testimony with this possibly or possibly not important detail.
Permission granted.
Go ahead, Mr. Vigil. Yes, it was scarlet. As I remember it, the document was written in scarlet ink, but perhaps I'm mistaken. Scarlet, you say? Well, yes. I mean, I only caught sight of it for a brief moment, of course, but even by the dim light of the cell, I remember thinking that it was an unusual color. At the very least. Quite sure it wasn't black.
Witness! Is that really what you saw?
What? Sir! Is something wrong, Lord Strongheart?
I apologize. Continue.
What do you make of that, Mr. Naruhodo? For Lord Strongheart to be so visibly shaken in that way.
Oh, Janela. You can plainly see the right here. It's broke as hell of hell's waistcoat.
Well, yes, you're right. Mr. Vigil, I'd like to confirm one point with you. Did you actually see the content of the document that Mr. Asogi was holding that night? Oh, well, no. I mean, there was no time. As soon as he noticed me there, he hid it behind his back. But it was definitely a will, was it? Yeah, it was. That's what Mr. Asogi told me.
The court need waste no further time on this matter. We have the will in question in our possession. There is nothing more to add.
Well, it's definitely not written in fucking red. A will written in scarlet ink. What did Mr. Vigil really see Cosmo's father holding, I wonder? If you have an inkling, Mr. Naruhodo, you must present it to the court at once. That testimony doesn't give much away. So this will really was penned by Cosmo-sama's father. I wonder what he could possibly have meant when he described it as a weapon. It's starting to sound very much like Mr. Asogi actually had nothing. But the plan to break him out of jail went ahead, which means he must have had some bargaining power. He must have been hiding something. It's the only explanation that makes sense. It's starting to sound like Mr. Asogi actually might have had something. Which is it, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm not sure, but I feel as though I'm on the brink of understanding all this. Let's listen to all the information again and see what we can learn. We can't overlook even the smallest detail. Absolutely. Wait, that's pretty funny actually, hold on. Smack! It's funny. Okay, back to what we were doing. Document was written in scarlet ink. I mean, is it literally just that this isn't written in scarlet ink? It can't just come down to that, right?
Objection!
No. Okay, fair enough. My lord! Yeah, fair enough. Thanks, Strongheart. You're right. I mean, there is, but whatever. Ooh, damn, got me there, I think. What do we have here? Scarlet ink. This isn't ink, is it? He wouldn't have had this. I've already been through this. Oh shit, you right! This is true. Good point. Good catch. You say that and I'm like, oh fuck, it did say that, didn't it?
Objection!
Scarlet colored writing is what you said you thought you saw, Mr. Vigil. And I believe that's exactly what you did see. What?
Officer again. You no evidence to say that.
Have a look at this report.
That's my brother's autopsy report.
Yes, and there's something in here that bothered me since I first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand.
Yes, so it does.
Scarlet ink? Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit. But I would hazard a guess that they don't all go around with ink stains on their fingerprints, do they?
Your wit is not appreciated. My brother was a well-bred and fastidious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately. What is your point, counsel?
My point is this. Whatever Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death. Because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand.
What? I remember something troubled me at the time. At the sheen, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. But Clint was punctilious about such things. It seemed unusual. And no document penned in the color of ink that was in the inkwell was ever found.
The document had disappeared. Are you suggesting that the document my father had in his hand the night in his cell was the same document that Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing moments before his death?
Then, it was.
If Mr. Vigil's testimony is to be believed, it can only mean that, yes. Mr. Vigil.
Sir!
When you spot Mr. Asogi with a document in his cell, his precise words were as follows, were they not?
Alright then, but what's on that paper?
A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
He never said his own will.
A last will and testament.
Oh!
If the conversation really did go as Mr. Vigil says, then what we now know completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Asogi said.
You really think?
I try not to, Van Zeeks, but yes, on occasion. But it wasn't that of Genshin Asogi. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
No! What?
Objection!
This is madness! My brother's last will and testament. That would mean that he had chosen to die.
That is what it would mean, yes.
No! Impossible! That is utterly out of the question.
Lord Van Zeeks.
Clint was pursuing the professor. It consumed him day and night. Whatever happened, he would have never abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never! He wouldn't rest until the job was done, until the killer was caught. The idea that he would willingly accept his own death, it's obscene!
Objection!
And yet we can be sure that he was writing his will moments before his death. And that Genshin Asogi came to be in possession of that document. So what could the will possibly have contained? Clearly something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. Because armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. It was something so damning that it prompted the powers that be to enact that daring jailbreak plot. Yes, there can be no question that the will contained the information of utmost secrecy. Information of the utmost secrecy? Ah! No, it couldn't be.
Oh, fuck. Wait, hold up. Is it the fucking... the Baskervilles?
I've heard more than enough. Pursuing this notion of a phantom will nobody can attest to having seen serves absolutely no purpose.
Objection!
No, my lord. That's unacceptable.
What did you say, counsel?
The last will and testament that Genshin Asogi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. All the testimony and evidence presented to the court has logically led us to that as a possibility. We have a duty to pursue the line of reasoning to its conclusion.
But with no possible means of knowing the contents of the document, there is no line of reasoning to pursue.
A reason why Lord Clint Van Zeeks, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret people in the judiciary would be willing to negotiate the jailbreak of a condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts is an unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head. But it's just too hideous. Mr. Naruhodo, however difficult the situation might become, you work with your client in pursuit of the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Zato.
So hold your head high and keep soldiering on.
Yes, you're right. 10 years ago, in his final moments, Lord Clint Van Zeeks left behind a will.
a will that Genshin Asugi was able to use as a weapon to negotiate his escape from prison. In all probability, the details in the will were related to the Professor case.
The defense's last statement is mere conjecture. What are you getting at, man? Ryunosuke!
As soon as these words come out of my mouth, there's no going back. I believe that the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zieks was in fact
Oh boy. A report. Okay, this is actually kind of hard for me. I mean, I think it's an accusation, right? But like, could it be a confession? This is sort of pointing to it maybe being a confession, that maybe he was the professor, but that can't be right? It has to be an accusation. There's no way that it's a confession. Is it? It could be. That Asugi knows who the real thing is. But that would make Clint the bad guy. I'll be crazy. I'ma do it. Let's see what happens.
You can do this, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe that what Lord Clint Van Zieks actually penned that day was a confession.
A confession.
Regarding the mass murderer known as the Professor, and his true identity.
Objection!
He is not having this.
Enough! Council. What are you saying? Do you even realize? A confession about the true identity of the Professor. That would mean...
Lord Van Zieks, I appreciate this must be hard to take in. But it's the only explanation that fits. The killer that terrorized London a decade ago and became known as the Professor, the man believed to have murdered 5 members of the aristocracy, wasn't Genshin Asugi at all.
No, you can't be suggesting.
It was in fact the man believed to have been the 5th victim. Lord Clint Van Zieks himself.
It's finally open, is it? Pandora's box.
The great Van Zieks family. They've been thoroughbreds of the British judiciary for years. And Lord Clint Van Zieks, he was just a paragon of justice in the capital, but he was actually a mass murderer, a perpetrator of atrocities in the large nature. If the general public ever found out, law and order in this country would have been finished.
My brother.
Oh, this is too awful. Poor Lord Van Zieks.
I wonder though, did he never suspect? Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Barrick Van Zieks is a brilliant prosecutor. Is it conceivable that he didn't realize what his older brother really was?
Order in the court.
Lord Van Zieks. The Professor made use of an enormous hound as his murder weapon. Tell me, did your brother own a dog?
Yes, he did. Balmung. He was a well-known hunting dog. People called him a giant. I don't believe this. When my brother would go hunting in the forest, the grounds behind the house, he always took Balmung. After Clint's death, the creature passed away too, almost as if he was following his master. He was a magnificent hunting dog, worthy of the jewel-studded collar around his neck.
A jewel-studded collar? Oh, fuck.
That's right. Though sadly, some years ago now, it was stolen by a thief who broke into the house one night.
A jewel-studded collar stolen by a thief. It so happens that myself and my colleagues have come across such a collar during our time in London.
How could you?
There was an old emblem attached to the collar too, made of pure gold. It was topped with a small crown and bore an ornate capital B.
What? An emblem bearing the initial B?
Oh my, you know it?
It's the insignia of the Baskerville family.
What? The Baskerville? Why is that name coming up now?
Baskerville is the family name of my late brother's widow. That pure gold emblem was an heirloom which Clint acquired upon their marriage. There can be no doubt then. The color you've described was Palmer's.
The family insignia of Lord Clint Van Zeeks' widow. There was a considerable amount of blood on the collar when we saw it. Since we know the dog was used for hunting, it could have been from its quarry, of course. But it could equally have been from human prey. So it is true then.
Clint Van Zeeks really was the professor. Impossible! These Japanese are making it all up to exonerate their own.
So in fact, the person responsible for these murders of nobles and royals wasn't noble himself. And that threatened to be an enormous scandal that would irrevocably destabilize British society.
My father knew that, and was using it to negotiate his way out of the unjust charges brought against him. But at the very last hour, those he'd bargained with betrayed him, slaying him mercilessly on foreign soil.
Well, can you deny it, Lord Strongheart?
10 years have passed, and still now the 6 million inhabitants of our great capital rest easy, believing that justice was done. That though his anonymity had made, the diabolical murderer was caught and executed. Very well then, you may have the truth. Tell me then. Tell me what Clint really was.
I don't trust a word that comes out of your fucking mouth, Strongheart.
Lord Clint Van Zeeks was too pure of heart. When he became a prosecutor and went in pursuit of the black roots of crime, he drove himself into a corner. He came to the uncomfortable realization that to fight the most fiendish of criminals requires one to become even more fiendish oneself.
Clint.
The 19th century was a truly miraculous 100 years for Great Britain, and indeed the whole world. New industry, new technology, and with the birth of the Metropolitan Police Service, new law and order. But these dazzling new developments meant ever deeper shadows were cast on society. Water sullied by factories, air thick with noxious fumes and crime, growing daily to fill the darkness. Lord Clint Van Zeeks made it his mission to combat that darkness. But as time went on, it slowly ate at his soul until eventually he was consumed. It's ironic, really, and somewhat surprising, that the truth has once again been unearthed by a Japanese.
Once again, what do you mean?
10 years ago, your father, Genshin Asogi, turned up at my office one night. The professor?
Yes, beyond all shadow of doubt. You must issue a warrant to search his home at once.
Don't be absurd. The man comes from one of our country's most illustrious families. He's a paragon of justice here at the capital.
Yes, that's the point. That's why none of you British can see it. He's using his noble status as a diversion while he commits these atrocious crimes behind the scenes.
Do you have evidence?
Nothing definitive as yet. But he keeps an enormous savage hand on the estate. We need the full support of the judiciary for this. We're up against a member of the aristocracy.
So a large family estate has a fierce guard dog. You should know that's commonplace here in Britain. I'm sorry, but I can't possibly put Scotland Yard onto this case based on the tenuous accusation of a visiting student. So I turned down Asugi's plea, and as a result, he took it upon himself to visit the Van Zeek's mansion on his own. We can only imagine now what happened between the two men. Though we know the outcome, of course. Lord Clint Van Zeek's perished.
I don't believe this. So, in actual fact, Kazuma-sama's father did... He made the late Lord Van Zeeks meet the same fate. He put a permanent end to the professor killings by taking the drastic measure of ending the perpetrator's life.
As soon as I heard, I hurried to the mansion. When I arrived, it was easy to grasp what had happened.
And what about the will?
Asugi must have already taken it. Nothing of that nature was found at the scene. We had no idea of the existence of such a document at that time.
Who's yelling at me on Discord? Why am I getting yelled at on Discord? Who pinged me in this fucking channel? What the fuck? Why would you do something like that?
I was the only person who knew of the true identity of the professor. So I resolved to keep it a secret and to guard the secret to the bitter end.
So you're admitting to it? That you were behind it all?
It was you then who pinged the crimes of my father.
I did what needed to be done in order to protect the law and order of the British Empire. Even if that meant employing an unforgivable ruse.
Then it was you who arranged this fabricated evidence.
I ordered that detective to take care of it, whilst keeping the truth from him, naturally.
Gregson?
Obviously, he opposed me at first. Oi off, you walker! We can't do something like that! There's no question that it was Asugi who murdered Lord Van Zeeks. The house staff have made that statement that is who they saw the man running from the mansion that night. Yeah, well, I no doubt it was that Japanese fella. But we haven't got a shred of conclusive evidence against the man. And worse than that, who don't keep a dog? So we shot a murder weapon and boot. It was short on time, Gregson. We must put a stop to this man's rampage for the good of the country. So we'll use whatever means necessary. Do I make myself clear, detective? Blimey.
So that night 10 years ago, when I was attacked by those thugs in the back streets, and Genshin's ring was taken, that was him, was it? That was Gregson and some hired help. The detective handed the stolen ring to Dr. Wilson, who feigned its discovery from the victim's stomach during that autopsy. And in the light of that decisive evidence, Mr. Asugi was found guilty of the charges brought against him. However, behind the scenes, he had actually already struck a deal with his accusers, in which he agreed to silently accept the charges. But I just don't believe that part. As far as I knew the man, my father despised such underhanded dealings.
It was extremely easy to make him comply. You see, he had one crippling weakness.
What weakness?
His son. Isn't it obvious? You, Kazuma Asugi.
Me?
Perhaps you have no desire to return to your homeland, Asugi.
What?
Though I hear you have a 14-year-old son. Agree to cooperate and accept your guilt without contention, and you will see Japan and your son again.
You scoundrel!
Whether you choose wisely or not, it will be a closed trial by order of Her Majesty. So whatever rash claims you might make in court will have no trouble in stifling them. There's only one outcome for you, Asugi. The gallows.
Don't forget I still have a weapon at my disposal. A document revealing a truth that I know you're desperate to keep hidden.
Yes, it hadn't escaped my mind, which is the only reason I'm willing to bargain with you. I only want to protect this country's law and order, you understand. So, what's it to be, Asogi?
Kazuma. He did it for me.
And as I told him at that time, my motive was simply to protect Britain from the damage the truth would do. To protect this country's law and order, at any cost.
Dude, you are so fucking full of shit. This is
Objection!
not how that went down. I don't fucking buy it. Not for a second. There's more here.
I've never dared let myself even consider this possibility until now. But in the light of all this treachery, I have to ask. The mastermind behind the Reaper of the Bailey. Was it you, Lord Mail Strongheart?
A rather brilliant idea, wouldn't you say, Lord Barrack Van Zeeks? That the spirit of your late brother, that paragon of justice, should return to reap justice for his sibling. Could there be a more appetizing tale for London's masters, I ask you?
What brazen?
I knew that you'd play the part to perfection. But your role really wasn't that of some embodiment of death. No, you were London's guardian angel.
An angel with bloody hands? I think not.
Those who had cooperated with me already were only too happy to participate in my plan. Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson. My minions worked tirelessly to ensure that the finger of guilt could never come to rest on you. All thanks to them that you were exalted as the demigod the Reaper became.
Dr. Wilson left Britain 4 years ago and he was invited to work in Japan.
That's right. So I had to employ the services of a young protege after that. Dr. Courtney Scythe.
Dr. Scythe.
So, what with the execution of the professor and the subsequent reign of the Reaper of the Bailey, I've successfully safeguarded law and order in our mighty capital for the past decade. That is everything. My lords, ladies, and gentlemen, I do hereby confess, it was I who sired the concept of the Reaper. However, let me say in my defense, it was all for the preservation of law and order across the entire empire.
Lord Strongheart did it. An unforgivable collection of crimes. But still, all those who died at the Reaper's hands were rotten to the core anyway. It was all needed to keep London safe.
There is no one left now who can reveal the precise truth of what happened 10 years ago. Therefore, this trial can go no further. Now, I would like to entreat all those present.
This dude's trying to end this fucking trial. Something's missing, dude.
Beyond these four walls, nobody need know the truth. Even Her Majesty must be protected from this. I trust you all appreciate the importance of my request. It is, of course, for the good of the country.
Can he do this? Can the trial really end now? I have one last question for the accused, Lord Van Zeeks.
What? Of course, I know that you're a highly accomplished prosecutor, so I find it hard to believe that you didn't have any doubts at all. That you never suspected your older brother.
Yes, the same thought occurred to me.
It was only once, but yes, I couldn't say that I never had my doubts. My brother's sense of justice was extremely strong, perhaps too strong, I observed. At that time, there were members of the aristocracy who were bleeding the country dry for their own gain. And since they were nobles, they were untouchable. For my brother, it was a source of great turmoil.
And coincidentally, at the same time, the professor began his terrifying reign.
During the time of the professor killings, My brother did not appear to be himself.
And that made you suspect?
Yes. But it was only once, not more.
Only once? Really?
Clint wasn't the culprit. That was my conclusion at the time. And I still believe that now.
Do you have any evidence to support that idea?
The third victim was the Lord Chief Justice at the time. It was he who had recognized my brother's potential and trained him as a prosecutor. No matter what the circumstances, it's unthinkable that my brother could have killed his friend and mentor.
But you know who could have killed him? A guy who ended up becoming the Lord Chief Justice to replace him?
That will do. Neither Clint Van Zieks nor Genshin Isogi still walk this earth. However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion.
But
There are only two extant pieces of evidence from the time. The woe-begone ring that acted as the incriminating evidence to condemn Genshin Isogi, and the 3-paged last will and testament penned in black ink and left behind by the man. The wretched truth of what happened is exactly as I have explained. Later today, I will present myself at the Ministry of Justice for whatever sanction is deemed appropriate. That is all. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
let's go! Ding dong, you're full of bullshit, idiot! Thank you, Kazuma. Me? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made this 11th hour discovery. What discovery? My lord, I'm afraid I must insist the trial continues.
I beg your pardon.
As the court has been reminded today already, we must stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth. And to that end, one particular statement made by somebody in this courtroom moments ago revealed a very subtle contradiction.
What contradiction?
But all I did was ask the accused one simple question.
Well, it began with Lord Van Zieks and his recollection of his brother, but Lord Strongheart didn't permit the defendant to speak at length.
I merely pointed out that we could draw no further useful conclusions here. So where on earth is the contradiction?
One of them definitely just said something contradictory. It's time to identify who. It was Lord Strongheart, I'm sure of it. Something he said was slightly off. Colin Ryunosuke, think back over his words, find the problem.
Neither Clint Van Zieks nor Genshin Isogi still walk this earth.
That has to be true, right?
However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion. There are only two extant pieces of evidence from the time.
That's not true, there is a third. Last will and testament. Penned in black ink. I mean, it's 3 pages, right? Or is it only 2? We only have 2 pages, don't we? We only have 2 pages. There's a 3rd page missing. Let's fucking go. We found it. Lord Strongheart, would you care to explain?
Explain what, counsel?
Among the statements you made just a few moments ago, something you said was inconsistent with a certain piece of evidence we have.
Inconsistent.
And whilst an inconsistency remains, the defense has a right to pursue an explanation.
Ryunosuke, what?
Let me warn you about the statements you are making, counsel. They may very well prove fatal. You claim my words contain a contradiction? With which piece of evidence, I ask you?
Take that!
This here is the will left behind by Mr. Isogi. The 2-paged will.
What?
Yet moments ago, your precise words were the 3-paged last will and testament.
Huh?
Could it be that originally there was a 3rd page?
For a moment, I thought perhaps you'd identified something worthwhile, but it's a mere trifle, I see.
A trifle.
Governor Caden. What can I do for you, sir? You were present when the Japanese man penned his last will and testament. Why? Well, I was there for sure. I remember the black worm like scrolls this day. I'm quite certain, my lord. There was a third page at the time.
What?
Only the first 2 pages were the actual will, though. If I'm on correctly, the third was a message to his lord back in Japan.
For legal purposes, we required only his will.
And we went there and wanted any uncomfortable words, but Britain and get back to Japan, eh? So it was decided that the third page wouldn't be shit.
Objection!
How dare you make that decision? I had a right to know what it said, to hear my father's final words to me.
The courtroom is no place for sentimentality, counsel. As it happens, why the third page is all coming with me? Oh, wow.
My father's message!
It will be given to you at the end of these proceedings.
It'll be too late once the trial is over. We need to know what it says now. Even the slightest thing may give us a vital clue. My lord, the defense calls for Genshin Asugi's last words to his son to be read out loud before the court now.
Your request is denied. The inevitably maudlin words can be of no consequence now.
The prosecution agrees. The court should know the contents of that message. Every possible piece of evidence must be thoroughly examined.
Very well then. Governor Caden. You will read the third page of the document for all present to hear. Yes, sir! Alright, I should point out, my lord, that I can actually read the damn language.
This beautiful handwriting, shame on you, Barry. Oh shit.
If I could be of assistance here, I would be happy to translate the words in English for the court.
Father.
You're still here, are you, Dr. Mikutaba? Naturally. I consider myself a member of the judiciary, albeit a lonely one. But perhaps I should quietly withdraw after I've translated Genshin's message.
Your cooperation is much appreciated. Kazuma, the truth is shrouded in darkness. A darkness only our clan's great sword can pierce. Mighty Karuma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes.
Twist the sword and get the message out.
That's the end of the message, it would seem.
A haiku poem. Twist thy head.
Father.
What is Karuma? Can we do that now? Will it let us twist Karuma now or not yet? No. Okay.
The name of the Asogi clan's famous sword. A razor-sharp blade known to all, passed down for generations. It embodies the Japanese spirit.
It's not known to me.
Damn, get him. It's the katana sword that was submitted as evidence early in these proceedings. The one worn by prosecutor counsel when he confronted Inspector Gregson.
All these procrastinations are beginning to try my patience. Adjournment of this court is long overdue. As the presiding judge, I've been as accommodating as possible of the will of the courtroom. However, despite all that, no new information has come to light. In pursuit of justice, Lord Clint Van Zeeks tragically lost all sense of morality. When he murdered his former mentor, clearly he was already devoid of his normal faculties.
Objection!
How dare you! I refuse to believe that of my brother. Too much time has passed. We cannot ever hope to know more than we do now. Especially since the alleged will that he penned in his final moments appears to have been lost forever.
Can I please mess with it now? I can! Hell yeah! Mighty Karuma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes. That's the proper way to use the sword, is it? Maybe I should try it. It hurts my neck. That's the trouble. Mr. Naruhodo, if I might make a suggestion. I think perhaps it doesn't mean your head. Oh. I once studied the history and development of katana some time ago, and as I'm sure you're probably aware, the sword's head is the part at the very end of the hilt. It's written as head in Japanese, but it's pronounced as kashira, I believe. Kashira. So Mr. Asogi's words really mean twist the butt of the hilt. You don't think...
Look what's inside it. Is that a tightly wound sheet of parchment? Scarlet ink! It's written in scarlet ink! I pen this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable and willing death. This is it, isn't it? This is Naruhodo! Look at the signature at the end. Clint Van Zeeks. And the date, 10 years ago on that fateful night. So for 10 years, it's been silently concealed inside Karuma and nobody knew. The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. Wait, oh my goodness. Look at this. This is unbelievable. Okay, you're gonna need to allow me to read it. I can't read it? I'm not allowed to read it. That's hilarious.
Ah! Lord Strongheart, you appear to be in something of a hurry to wrap things up. I wonder why. I've all heard you state time and time again during these proceedings that everything you did was in the interests of protecting British law and order. And I stand by that. Without the Reaper, we could never have achieved the reduction in crime the capital has seen.
Objection.
What about Inspector Gregson then? And Dr. Wilson? They were no criminals. You used them to achieve your ends, and then you had them killed. However you dress it up, there was nothing fair or just about that. Lord Strongheart, what exactly is it that you're hiding?
Dr. Mikotama, were you not to quietly withdraw after the translation of your former associate's will? In this courtroom, no argument carries weight unless it is supported by evidence. And it would seem that the defense has no more evidence to present. In which case, I hereby order all discourse from these proceedings to be struck from the record.
This is my last chance. Mr. Naruhodo! I have to present some decisive evidence now, or it's all over. But can I? Wait, my lord. As it happens, the defense does have evidence to present.
What? Don't be absurd! There's nothing of relevance remaining from the time!
Objection.
It's high time that you realize something, my lord. This gentleman has an uncanny habit of producing evidence at the final hour that had escaped everyone else's attention. Nonsense.
What is it, Ryunosuke? What do you have? I dare say, the final, decisive piece of evidence that will reveal the whole truth about this rotten tale. How can you?
Decisive. Well, it would appear that there's no escaping it now, my lord. Let it be so then. Present whatever you think you have that can settle this decade-old enigma, if you're capable. What exactly is this evidence that the defense claims to be so decisive?
Take that!
There is a single piece of evidence that can clarify what really happened 10 years ago. The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
Ah! A wonderfully astute observation, I'm sure. But in case it escaped your notice, that document was lost long ago.
That's right, it was. Only, I have it right here. Discovered just moments ago.
Impossible! That can't be!
Everything that's happened comes back to this will. This document is the key that will unlock the entire mystery. Oh fuck, he is veiny, dude.
My brother's last will and testament. Where did you find that?
It was rolled up inside this. Inside Karuma! That ultimate weapon Genshisugi obtained has laid undisturbed in the hilt of the sword all these years, just waiting for the right time to emerge and reveal the truth.
The signature and seal certainly look official. My God, it's true. It's my brother's handwriting. There could be no mistake. I forbid the contents of the document from being read out. Do you hear me? I strictly forbid it!
Objection!
You can't do that, my lord. This document could explain everything.
That document could literally destroy the meaning of justice in this country. I demand that you hand it to me at once!
Why? What are you trying to hide?
Uh,
Could it be that you already know what's written on this page?
what are you implying?
It was a confession, but not a confession of his own guilt. A confession of someone who told him to do all this stuff.
Court is adjourned with immediate effect. Clear the courtroom.
Ha! The foot comes up.
Do that, my lord. And you'll suffer a fatal blow as Lord Chief Justice. I beg your pardon.
Forcibly ending a trial without good reason. And not any trial, a closed trial by order of Her Majesty the Queen. To defy the monarch's will is treason.
Oh!
Dude, he is fucking breathing heavy. Lord Clan Van Zeeks really did pen a will that day. It's exactly as the young Japanese man said.
Read it out. No. We have a right to hear what is in that will.
A right and a duty.
Well, my lord, it would rather appear as though proceedings won't begin quite as you'd hoped. You fools!
Go ahead, Ryunosuke, read it. The prosecution gives its full support. Very well, then.
No, for God's sake! No!
Dude, he's fucking screaming to the heavens. Phoenix Wright 1 or this one? I prefer this game to Phoenix Wright. The only two games in the series, in my opinion, there are 3 games in the series, in my opinion, that are the best. I have not played. I should note. Also, welcome, welcome, of course, to the stream. I have not played Spirit of Justice, so I cannot comment on that. But I played all the other Wright games, and I will say the 3 best ones, in my opinion, are this combination at least. The 2 of them obviously come as one package. Trials and Tribulations, the finale of the first series of games, and Dual Destinies. I like Dual Destinies a lot. Dual Destinies is probably weaker than the other 2. I just really like it. This and Trials... Or no, is Trials and Tribulations the middle one? Or is Justice for All the middle one? Man, fucking fake fan over here, am I right? The third game, the one with Godot. Either that game or this game is the best. And honestly, I'm thinking this game is the best. This one might be my favorite. Thank you for the follow so much. I really appreciate that. Just hopping in here at the final hour. Let's go. I penned this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable willing death. The hour is 11 p.m., and I sit at my writing desk in my office. My good friend Asogi stands at my shoulder. He has expressed his intent to invoke the dying ritual of the duel, that I may depart this world with honor. An honor of which I am utterly undeserving. The Japanese are a truly merciful people. I, Clint Van Zeeks, Lord of the Manor of the Van Zeeks estate, hereby confess to the following. I am the killer who has come to be known in society as the Professor, guilty of 4 counts of murder. I will not here discourse the corruption rife among the aristocracy, which is to me, as one of them, so apparent. However, 6 months ago, I took the life of a member of the House of Lords at the heart of depravity. A demon who had habitually sacrificed the common man to further his own interests, abusing his position of power. The law is impotent against such vile avarice. Only a fellow demon can rid society of this menace. That demon was my quarry, upon whom I willingly set my great hound. But though I am a hunter of some experience, I am a poor felon, it seems. My guilt was at once recognized by another, and I became subject to his extortion. He held over me the threat of exposing my wicked crimes to my beloved wife and brother. Under that threat, I have done this man's bidding for months now, killing those he demanded I kill. As I watched my former mentor perish before my eyes at the jaws of the hound I commanded. I realized that I had lost the last shred of decency within me and sunk to the level of a wild beast. There is no path back to the light. Be it I or my dear friend Asogi, who dies this night, I am eternally damned. To my extortioner, male Strongheart, may you feel the jaws of the beast at your throat every time you swallow. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Oh, fucking did it. Called him out. So now we know, yes, Clint Van Zieks was a murderer. But somebody was directing him and naming his victims. His extortioner, Lord Male Strongheart. It was you!
Lord Strongheart, a moment ago, you claimed that what the court had just heard could destroy justice in this country. But you weren't trying to protect justice at all. All you were trying to do was conceal the secret of your true nature and the countless lives you've sacrificed up till now.
It just didn't make sense to me that the third victim, the former Lord Chief Justice, was my brother's benefactor and a man of lofty principles. As I said, Clint had no possible reason to kill the man.
But you did, didn't you, Lord Strongheart? To eliminate the man who stood between you and the office you'd set your sights on. So you used your own hunting dog, Lord Clint Van Zieks, to take him down.
It had to be done. London's unsavory shadows are deep, and the arm of the law fails to reach their depths. Crime must be cut off at the roots, but the Lord Chief Justice at the time couldn't see that. He was weak! Lofty principles, you say? Tantamount to cowardice, if you ask me. Which is why I took his place, in order to fight the crime he was allowing to spread like wildfire.
By murdering the man.
The Reaper, the Professor. The name makes no difference. As I've explained countless times already, it was all done for the furtherance of law and order in London.
Objection.
Are you going to legitimize the murder of my father now, too?
Ah, Ryunosuke. Well, that was unfortunate. I had fully intended to send him back to Japan as we'd agreed.
I don't believe you. It was you, wasn't it? You killed him.
No, it wasn't me who took your father's life.
Then who?
On the night following his mock execution, I went to Lowgate Cemetery at 3 in the morning with Jikagu.
Judge Jikagu?
There had to be a collaborator on the Japanese side to manage Sogi's treatment after his repatriation. Jikagu had fierce ambition. It made him easy to manipulate. 10 years ago, after he'd stood trial for the destruction of the witness stand, I had words with him. When I told him the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs could be his, he couldn't agree fast enough.
Seshiro, you fool.
As you know, Asogi escaped the prison in a closed casket and was subsequently interred. We intended to dig him out of his grave before he ran out of air. But sadly, all did not go to plan. There was an unexpected visitor to the cemetery with his own ideas about digging up graves. A man who witnessed what nobody was supposed to see.
Enoch Trevor.
Of course, I knew grave robbers frequented London cemeteries, but that grave on that particular night. Blast, if people find out the convict wasn't really executed, the scandal will rock the very foundations of the Empire. Then what do we do? Shoot him, Mr. Jikagu. Shoot Asogi at once. He can't live now that this has happened. He has to go. What are you talking about? You had an agreement. You promised him that he could return to Japan. Everything has changed now. If the truth got out because of this, both of us would be finished. Forever. Come on, Jikagu, do it. Pull the trigger. Shoot!
Fucking did it, bro. Fucking pulled the trigger.
Jikagu shot Asogi from the shadows. The grave robber was so close the blood spayed over his coat. He fled as fast as legs would carry him. Then Jikagu and I put Tosogi's body back in the grave from which he'd just emerged. When I later learned of the waxwork monitor's presence at the scene as well, I made her swear 2 things. Never to remove the professor's mask, and never to speak of the events of that night. And with that, the secret was buried along with Asogi's corpse. So, now you know what really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night.
Damn, alright. So, where do we go from here? Are you going to jail, maybe?
It was Jikagu, your Japanese acquaintance, who killed Asogi in the end, you see. He claimed to be the man's friend, but when push came to shove, he pulled the trigger.
You know, you've lied so many times. Why do I get a feeling you're fucking lying again? Why do I have this strange feeling that you would fucking blame somebody else for something you did again? God, what fucking why? Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Just before Mr. Jikagu left the courtroom earlier, he said that the assassin exchange proposal was a demand from his British counterpart, not a request. So you coerced him too, using what happened in the graveyard.
By that time, Jikagu was the Minister of Foreign Affairs negotiating international trade.
Why you lying? Why you fucking lying?
You can imagine what would have happened if it came to light he'd murdered a compatriot 10 years earlier. He would have lost everything. I barely reminded him of that.
How do you sleep at night?
Well, every time I swallow, I feel the fucking jaws of that dog in my throat. It's very uncomfortable. I can't even drink my pills anymore. I'm an old man. These past 10 years, I fought tirelessly with the darker recesses of London's criminal underworld. And I've used whatever means necessary to ensure that justice prevails and law and order reign supreme.
Objection!
You're just fucking furthering your own goals, dude. That couldn't be further from the truth. The fact is, you haven't fought crime at all.
How dare you! I saved Clint Van Zeeks from dishonor and his death!
Objection!
No, you just fucking protect your own ass. Whilst behind the scenes, you systematically buried anyone who stood in your way. And then, you made my father take the blame.
It was unavoidable! It was the only way to protect our justice system and public order!
Let's not forget the... I definitely read that as Zamazenta with a gun. Which, you know, let's not forget the others you had killed as well. Setting the defendant up as the Reaper to cover up the truth behind the murders of countless more.
That's enough! Peralta, that's enough! Do you have any idea of the conniving that led to the acquittals of those wretched criminals? Asogi, that's enough! We have to fight fire with fire. Our courts can't function without a Reaper. Can't you see all I've done for this country? This has been my struggle!
Objection!
You've done nothing! It's Lord Van Zeeks who worked tirelessly and justly in court whilst enduring the disgrace of the Reaper name. And Inspector Gregson, fraught with anguish for having sullied his hand through a desire to do the right thing. Not to mention Genshin Asogi, who risked his life in pursuit of the truth you tried to hide. No, the darker recesses of London's underworld were largely filled by you.
You little... When will you get it through your thick skulls?
That it was all for Queen and country, I'm tiring of that excuse. You've consistently twisted the truth for bargaining power to make others do your bidding, nothing more. People who willingly twist the truth and coerce others have no right to call themselves part of the judiciary. It strongly suggests you don't ever talk of justice again.
Grr. Grr.
He do be yelling. Dude, he's gonna burst some eardrums with a scream like that in the courtroom. This shit bounces off the walls. It's going everywhere. It's such a big room. They don't got microphones. It's because they got good vocals. Good vocalization. Oh, he had a heart attack. Man had a heart attack and died. Never mind, he's clapping. He finds it really funny.
Well, 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 dear me, my good fellows, dear me! Well-deserved round of applause, I think, for a quite marvelous performance.
What are you talking about?
Those delightfully grave expressions, that beautifully pronounced Queen's English. Really, our friends from the Far East are quite the picture of industriousness.
You fraud. Keep your mockery.
Please don't misunderstand. It really is exactly as you've both said.
What are you trying to say?
I have occupied the darker recesses of London's underworld and, how did you put it? Done nothing. I confess it's a little embarrassing to have it pointed out quite so starkly, but yes, I really have done nothing, which means I can be indicted for nothing. No?
What?
It's true! Personally, I've committed no crime. I've merely been surrounded by fools who've acted very rashly indeed.
Objection!
You can't get away with that! You've consistently preyed on people's weaknesses!
And what? Threatened them? Are you sure it wasn't just bargaining? I would like to address all the good lords, ladies, and gentlemen of the judiciary here present. You all know of these darker recesses in our great capital, and deep down I believe you also know that to fight those who dwell there requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves.
Ah, fuck. He's gonna try and get away with this shit.
So let me appeal to your good sense now. Consider the situation with me. If this catalogue of horrifying revelations were to become common knowledge among the 6 million inhabitants of London, what might happen? To learn that the infamous murderer of royals and nobles was a respected member of the aristocracy himself. That evidence was fabricated in the scapegoat's trial amid secret negotiations with prosecutors to effect a jailbreak. That the Reaper of the Bailey was an organized group of assassins managed by a Scotland Yard inspector. And finally, that it was all masterminded by the Lord Chief Justice himself.
If the general public of Britain knew the truth, all faith in the police and the prosecutor's office would be completely lost, without doubt. Public order in the capital would completely break down. We'd be cast back into the lawless days of the last century.
Precisely. As it were 100 years ago when 1 in 10 of the population were criminals. Think what we've accomplished since then. A public policing force, a comprehensive set of laws. And if we want to continue to protect this new era of law and order, I say again, we must at times occupy the darkness ourselves.
Dude, stop fucking Jesus posing. Nobody wants to see that.
We have successfully identified and apprehended the man responsible for taking Inspector Gregson's life. That is all that was expected of this trial. All these other matters have been discussed. Will be eliminated from the minutes of these proceedings in the interest of preserving law and order. And to protect Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Well, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, what say you?
He's not gonna get away with this. He has a point. No, he fucking doesn't. The things Lord Stronghead has done are quite unforgivable. But on the other hand, isn't it our duty to maintain law and order in the capital?
You can't deny the threat of the Reaper over the years has done wonders for the crime rate.
And by fair means or foul, it's all thanks to Lord Stronghead. Oh god. They're chanting his name. Are you hearing this?
This is the will of the British judiciary?
He finally drank. Let's go. We drove him to drink.
For your rousing response, friends, I express my heartfelt gratitude. Therefore, in accordance with the overwhelming wishes of the court, the records shall be erased.
You have to respect the man's ability to turn a situation to his favor. Man's fucking level 10 hustler for sure. Lord Strongheart really is a master of manipulation. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. We can't pull it from here. We've conclusively proven his guilt. But he still manages to evade justice. I just don't know what we can do.
Ryunosuke.
It looks like the trial really is going to come to an end now. I'm almost out of options, I think. There's one person people love more than Strongheart. One path. Use evidence. Yes, as I know only too well, the only thing that carries any weight in court is hard evidence.
But Mr. Naruhodo, what evidence is there to use at this stage in the trial?
I have an idea. I don't know whether anything will come of it, but if there was ever a time for using this particular item we have among the evidence, it's now. Bunny, go!
Oh my, yes, Mr. Sholmes asked that if you had it with you earlier.
We've exposed all of Lord Strongheart's wrongdoing now. I've no doubt the only way to fight a level 10 hustler is with a level 11 hustler. I've already deduced exactly how the truth would unfurl. So I think it must be time for the great detective to take center stage, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Let's take the hair by the ears then, and heave.
All right, here goes. Heave!
Ow, 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 ow! My dear fellows, must I remind you every time a gentle tug will suffice?
Mr. Sholmes, you're looking quite at the wrong direction, Mr. Naruhodo, because I'm over here. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, he's...
The man fucking teleported in? Bro, he's using a... This man's fucking... astral projecting into the courtroom. It's Mr. Sholmes! That fucking saunter, dude. That swagger.
I wasn't expecting you back, Sholmes.
Delighted to be here again. Lord Strongheart. What? What is the meaning of this? Bailiff, seize him. Put that man in irons.
They're just fucking... just gonna run through him.
This is a closed court. You've been warned once already, man. What the? We can't get a hold of my lord. We just go right through him.
He's fucking dancing on them. Oh my god.
I'm afraid your efforts are wasted. You see, the great detective you see before you is composed entirely of light and shadow, in image, if you will.
He's teleporting around the room now.
Mr. Naruhodo, I must congratulate you on your fine deductions.
Mr. Sholmes, what on earth is...
Are you familiar, I wonder, with the invention known as the telephone?
Well, yeah. I heard that some public telephones have been installed recently in Tokyo.
The sound of the speaker's voice is converted to an electrical signal and transmitted instantly to another place.
Quite. Sounds are transmitted. So could not images keep them company? I mused. Iris and I did some modest experimentation to develop such a device specifically for this very day.
Modest experimentation, Mr. Sholmes. What a modest description.
And somewhat incidentally, I thought we might just as well transmit an entire scene.
Somewhat incidentally, Mr. Sholmes, now you're just being immodest.
Do you mean to say you're not actually here, Sholmes?
I knew my trusty partner would have no trouble grasping the concept.
Except he's grasping the stand to steady himself after your shock arrival.
Poor father, I would have hoped he might have been forewarned, being the great detective's great partner.
Leave my courtroom at once! Get out, or I swear to you.
Dear me, you on the other hand, Lord Strongheart, appear to have a very poor grasp of the situation. Allow me to reiterate, I am not here, which would, I hope, lead naturally to one asking, where exactly are you? The very question I was awaiting. I am at present enjoying the air in a rather splendid garden.
Garden?
Not just any garden, you understand. A garden at Buckingham Palace.
What? You can't be. Buckingham Palace.
What's Buckingham Palace, Mrs. Otto? I've never heard of it.
Do you ever read the news, Mr. Naruhodo?
Mr. Sholmes, is Iris with you there?
Ah, well now, Iris is currently enjoying some tea. With Her Majesty.
Her Majesty?
Not just any Her Majesty, you understand. Her Majesty the Queen of the British Empire.
What?
What on earth is this all about?
Buckingham Palace is Her Majesty the Queen's residence in London, Mr. Naruhodo.
Order! Order in the court! I demand immediate silence! Her Majesty the Queen, you can't be. I mean, no. This is some sort of unforgivably distasteful trickery by a third-rate detective, that's all!
Unforgivably distasteful trickery. What an apt description. A closed court session attended by elite members of the judiciary is a rare event. I presume that Her Majesty would be more than a little curious about the proceedings. So, I decided to show her everything, from the start to finish.
Huh? You showed her?
Indeed. By dint of Herlock Sholmes' remote cinematograph.
Meddling. This is some kind of a nightmare.
Just as I appear to be standing before you, regaling you with talk of my latest invention. No doubt you've inferred that the reverse is also true. You don't mean? Her Majesty has seen and heard every moment of the proceedings. I assume there would be no objection. After all, every trial in this country is conducted under the auspices of Her Majesty, as you know.
You.
I confess I am quite impatient to hear Her Majesty's opinion about the unforgivably distasteful trickery in which you've been engaged over the past 10 years.
No! I was merely...
Oh, sorry to keep you all waiting. Vicky and I had so much to talk about. Iris.
There you are. You cannot call the Queen Vicky. You can't do that. That's illegal.
In fact, I have a little message here from Her Majesty.
A message?
Well then, if everyone is sitting comfortably, forthwith and with immediate effect, all authority previously afforded to Male Strongheart is hereby revoked forevermore. Furthermore, he will be prosecuted for his crimes against his country in a public trial by jury in the coming days. So, it seems that Her Majesty doesn't believe we need to fight fire with fire. Justice in this country needn't be administered from the shadows at all.
Male Strongheart. The darkest you fostered to conceal your despicable actions these last 10 years is a thing of the past now. After today, your brand of law and order has no future, because no longer are you the Lord Chief Justice. In the eyes of the law and of Her Majesty the Queen, you are nothing but a criminal.
Adjourned! Court is adjourned!
You're fucking done, bud. You're fucking... What the fuck? No! Oh, okay. I thought they were gonna fucking... I thought the guy was gonna fucking die. Oh no. What a way to go. Oh, Lord. The court... The Old Bailey is on fire. He is! He's gonna get fucking murdered! What? God. Ah! Same, bro. Holy shit. That was unnecessary. What a way to go. Oh my lordy. You fucked up.
Lord Clint Van Zeeks left a will in which he confessed everything. When those words came out of Asogi's mouth, it deranged me completely. I knew I must do anything and everything in my power to contain the situation. But I couldn't find the damn document. I searched his cell, but it wasn't there.
Which precipitated the jailbreak prototype proceeding. What do you mean?
The need to obtain that will was all-consuming. I was sure that if I facilitated Asogi's escape, he would emerge with the will somewhere on his person. But despite searching his limp body in the cemetery that night, it still eluded me.
It's because you couldn't read Japanese, bro. You didn't know the third page.
Never even crossed my mind it was concealed in the sword's hilt.
There you have it. Hey, what's up, Van Zeeks? How you doing? It's been a day, hasn't it?
What pains me now is that my brother left this world without a word to me.
I'm sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. In point of fact, I think perhaps that isn't the case. Sorry?
How can that be?
There is more to his last will and testament.
What?
Why didn't we fucking read it out before? As I confront the prospect of my demise, I feel bitter regret for my younger brother. Barak, you have always looked up to me, and now you follow in my footsteps to become a prosecutor. It is my fervent wish that my unspeakable deeds should not hinder your advancement. I ask not for understanding, for none could understand my depravity. I ask only for forgiveness. Asogi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final two wishes. The first is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude, my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks.
Clint.
Dumb bitch. You dumb bitch. You thought you could get away with it. Male Stronghurt. You colluded with Sashiro Jikagu in a criminal plot so immense it spanned the oceans. And you cold-heartedly murdered all those who knew the truth about what happened 10 years ago. But why did you set about that now, a whole decade later?
To ascend to the very peak. These last 10 years made me realize being the Lord Chief Justice wasn't enough. Short of becoming Her Majesty's Attorney General, I could have no real power to affect the changes needed in this country. And for that promotion, I needed to ensure no remnants of the past remained. How could you? I like everything to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe, like a well-oiled machine. And I was just a step away. And for your ambition to succeed, did you even bother to count the number of brilliant people you had killed? Ah, Mr. Reaper, are you not forgetting something? Such as? You very much adopted your usual prosecutor-like demeanor in the proceedings now. But the reality of the situation is that you are the defendant in this trial. However, the presiding judge would appear to have fallen from the bench, as it were. May I suggest them?
He's back! He's back! Santa's back! Let's go! This is hype. This is fucking hype. Santa is here! Let's go!
My lord!
Santa!
As a member of the judiciary, I've been following the proceedings from the gallery. And I must say, I shall never forget the extraordinary battle between good and evil that I witnessed here today. The darkness that has blighted justice in our land these past 10 years has at last been dispelled. Thanks in no small part to the efforts of a bright young star from the east. Defense Counsel Naruhodo.
Yes, my lord.
On behalf of everybody present in the Old Bailey, I give you my heartfelt thanks.
You're too kind, my lord.
The first time I faced you in court, just under a year ago now, I had the faintest
Fuck. Words are hard sometimes. Intimations.
that if British justice, so warped and twisted over its long history, was finally to no change, this might just be the man to do it.
What? You fucking hated me in the first one.
But at the time, I wouldn't allow myself to acknowledge the possibility. I couldn't overcome my hatred of the Japanese,
after the circumstances of my brother's death. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me to apologize for countless discourtesies on my part. You are a lawyer of boundless talent.
Damn. Alright, we take those. Oh, Lord Van Zieks. When I first arrived in Great Britain, I was literally a nobody. Certainly not a lawyer. The truth is, my fortunes have entirely been made by the miraculous people I've met. My best friend, Kazuma Asogi, who led me here to Britain in the first place. My loyal and ever-patient judicial assistant, Miss Suzato, who helped me study to become a lawyer. The brilliant Lord Van Zieks, who never failed to challenge his Nipponese rival. And not to mention, the exceptional master of logic and reasoning who showed me the true art of deduction, Mr. Sholmes. Dude, we did it! We beat racism. The final boss is racism and it's gone.
Saving the best for last, Miss Naruhodo. What a relief.
I'm well aware that without all these people's help and support, I wouldn't be where I am today. The truth is a guiding light that always leads to happiness. I've lived by that principle for a long time now, but actually it's not true. The truth can also cause great pain, sometimes even leave people on the brink of despair. And for that reason, there are those who feel the need to hide the truth, who do it instinctively even. But as soon as we allow our eyes to settle on something other than the truth, the darkness takes hold. And from there it grows, until eventually it makes us blind to the guiding light of the truth altogether. So that's why it's my belief that we must all resolve never to avert our eyes from what is just and true. So that we can continue to walk the straight and narrow path ahead. I don't know, the gay path seems pretty cool. These four guys, I ship all them, why not, right?
Well, I must excuse myself now. The Queen calls. But before I go, Mr. Naruhodo, allow me to compliment you on your grand opus.
What?
Without your beautiful composed case against Lord Strongheart, Her Majesty would have been unable to act. Thanks to you and your fellows, the haunting undertones corrupting Britain's justice system have been silenced.
Thank you very much.
So, until our paths cross again somewhere.
Well then, it would appear that this long trial has finally come to an end.
My apologies for any anxiety caused, my lord.
I'm quite sure we shall meet again in here in the courtroom before long, Prosecutor Barak Van Zieks. In conclusion of these proceedings, I hereby declare the defendant Barak Van Zieks
not guilty. No fire this time, though. Yay! Woohoo! We did it! We beat racism!
That is all. Court is adjourned.
Oh man, why did the fucking, if you didn't do that not guilty for 2, we would have been out of here at 4:20. Come on, that would have been so nice. Why'd you have to take an extra minute for the celebration? That's bullshit. Van Zieks should have been fucking getting that good kush. It really is all over. But did I sacrifice too much? Mr. Naruhodo, I really must congratulate you. It was truly splendid performance. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for you. Oh, thank you very much. But I really couldn't have done it without you at my side through it all, Miss Suzato. Oh. I will say, one thing I wish these games had more of, and it's a shame that the past 2 cases didn't have it at all, and the first case in the game didn't have it, is the jury. Because I love the fucking summation examinations so much. Those are my favorite fucking mechanic in the Phoenix Wright games now. And I'm sad I feel like it got underutilized. Your kind words mean so much to me.
It really was a very splendid show, that, Naruhodo. I'd have thought you'd be smiling from ear to ear, but you look rather glum.
Well, of course I'm delighted about the verdict, but in exposing the truth, I'm afraid I've caused my client a great deal of pain. I'm really not sure that's what a lawyer ought to be doing. I think you've taken a weight off his chest.
Oh, well, in that case, I'm quite sure that when you see Lord Van Zeek's smiling face, everything will seem much better.
yeah, Susato shouldn't have counted on that. Miss Susato, everything seems worse. He has a face like the thunder.
Oh dear, I really shouldn't have presumed.
Mr. Naruhodo,
Yes?
almost a year it's been now since I first encountered you here in this very courthouse. For you to have risen to the level of excellence you demonstrated today, well, it's quite remarkable.
But I exposed the most unpalatable truth you could have ever imagined in court today. I feel as though I've robbed you of something you held so dear.
What was it he said? To fight those who dwell in the darkness requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. But that was just the feeble excuse of a coward. Only those with a steadfast eye for the truth have what it takes to fight the dark forces of crime. You made fine work of establishing that fact in court today.
Oh, well, thank you.
What magnanimous words. I'm quite sure that Cosmo-sama would have a smile on his face at this very moment if he were here.
Kazuma. Susato, why? Miss Susato, there's another face like thunder here.
Oh my, and he really was here.
Lord Van Zeeks, allow me to congratulate you on your acquittal.
Congratulate me, or curse me. You failed to bring down the Reaper.
I owe you an apology.
No, it is I who should apologize. Your father, Genshin. If I had been stronger, then perhaps I made an unforgivable error of judgment. I can offer no excuse.
And I can offer no forgiveness. That said, I suppose you fought for justice and the truth. For that, at least, I can't withhold respect.
Your words mean more to me than you could know. I will hold them dear.
Kazuma-sama.
I must say, there's one thing that's still bothering me.
What's that?
The will that Lord Clint Van Zeeks wrote before his duel with my father. Sogi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final two wishes. The first is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. What can the second of his final wishes have been? That your father agreed to honor, you mean? I think perhaps I might be able to shed some light on that.
What? Father?
It was 10 years ago, as you know, the day before the execution was scheduled. I went to the prison to say farewell to Genshin. Why aren't you putting up more of a fight, Genshin? If you'd only agree to it, Cicero, I would gladly petition the government.
We've been through this already. You don't need to worry about me. Anyway, Yujin, I have a favor to ask of you. Something of great importance.
You're one of my greatest friends, Genshin. Whatever it is, consider it done.
I'm going to tell you an address. I need you to go there at once, in secret and telling no one. You should find a lady of the gentry in hiding there.
A
lady of the gentry. She's not in a good way, and she's with a child. Oh, fuck, Iris's mom? Oh my god, Kazuma and... No way! Kazuma is the fucking brother of Iris? Ah! Iris is Sogi! As a medical man, I'd like you to attend to her. Please, you're her only hope. By any chance.
By any chance, is the child yours, Genshin?
Oh, no, yeah, never mind. Oh, okay, right, obviously, Barrick's sister. Yes, I'm an idiot. I literally got my wires crossed. I forgot that this is something he promised her. Damn.
It's a favor that was asked of me by a man I knew. As his dying wish.
Dude, Iris Van Zeeks, let's go.
Goodness. I swore to the man that I would help. That I would do whatever I could for his wife and his unborn child. But if something should happen to me, I need to ask you the same favor. You're the only person I know that I can truly rely on.
What did you say?
If something should happen to you, tomorrow night you're going to be... You never know, though, do you? What life will bring. All right, then. Tell me the address. I'll head there at once with Shishiro and... No, not with him. Pardon? This is a favor I'm asking of you, and only you, Eugene. Right, I see. Very well, then. That very night, I caught a train from Paddington to Dartmoor in Devon. I found the old house. In the middle of nowhere it was. An old hunting hound lay asleep in the grounds. The poor woman was on the floor at the back of the darkened room. She was in mortal danger. I broke her waters to precipitate the labor before she weakened further. It was a torturous birth. I did everything humanly possible for her and her child.
Maybe I misunderstood. I don't think that was, maybe it was his wife. I thought the idea was he slept with somebody else, but... And in the end, I was lucky enough to welcome a new life into the world. But tragically, my efforts to save the mother's life were in vain. I held the healthy newborn girl in my arms and wept for longer than I care to remember. Eventually, in something of a daze, I looked around the room. There was a precious little in it, but an old travel trunk caught my eye. It had clearly been well looked after over the years, made of top-quality leather with fine stitching. But it was when I saw the emblem on the side that everything dropped into place. Baskervilles?
B for Baskerville.
Baskerville? I guess it was his wife. You mean, the woman was the wife of Lord Clint Van Zeeks?
That's right.
The newborn was his daughter.
But that makes no sense.
Why on earth wouldn't Clinton entrusted the child to my care in that case? I was completely unaware that he even had a daughter.
I suppose he didn't really have any choice.
What?
Well, your brother said he'd confessed everything to his wife, so she must have been beside herself with worry for her child. If the true identity of the professor were ever to be made public, the girl would be forever branded as the daughter of the infamous mass murderer.
Ah.
So the only solution was to distance the young girl from the Van Zeeks family as much as possible.
I don't believe it.
I imagine that in his final hour, Lord Clint Van Zeeks made the obvious choice. He would have thought to himself, this Japanese man here is someone I can trust.
I honored my promise to Genshin, of course. However, only a month later, I was summoned back to Japan. And without disclosing the parentage of the child, I couldn't obtain permission to take her with me.
Oh, how awful.
I was completely at a loss. In the end, I had to ask my great friend. I asked him if he would be a father to her.
That being Mr. Sholmes, I presume.
Yes. He took one look into my eyes and agreed to it on the spot.
Mr. Sholmes, he has a heart of gold.
Really, it all can be said that all that can be said I did for the child was to give her a name.
Oh?
When I'd come to Britain, I was trying to escape from the grief of losing my darling wife. So it was her name that I gave the little girl.
Your wife's name, Professor Mikutaba. In other words, Iris! The name of my mother. Ayama Mikutaba. Oh!
That's right, Ayame. Or in English, Iris.
Iris.
I can't believe it.
Ouch! Mr. Naruhodo, what's wrong? This little thing just pinched me on the behind through the trouser pocket. Hard.
Ah, my dear fellows, can you hear me?
Mr. Shumps, is that you? Ouch! Yes, yes, we can hear you.
You see what excessive tugging can do? Let that be a lesson to you.
Mr. Sholmes, we weren't able to thank you properly before, but you are simply marvelous. Your checkmate move was a stroke of genius.
Indeed it was, wasn't it? I surpassed myself, I feel. It had become apparent to me that to stop the Lord's injustice
Nice, good one.
would require such measures.
Bruno, Susie. Oh, Iris. Oh, I'm so pleased. What a wonderful outcome. Her Majesty Queen Vicky said she thought my special blend was delicious. Oh, I'm sure she did. After all, no one brews more delicious tea than you do, Iris. Let's have a party to celebrate. And Mr. Reaper, you simply must come too.
Unky would be fine. Unky Zeeks. I'm afraid I couldn't.
The Reaper of the Bailey, flustered by a 10-year-old girl again.
No, really? Oh, pooh.
But I give you my word that I shall present myself at your residence in the near future to express my gratitude.
Oh, how lovely. You've promised now. I won't let you forget. Bye for now, then.
All right, Iris. Thank you for all your help earlier.
Oh, that was nothing. Just come back soon.
Ouch! One final pinch goodbye, was it?
Well, I think I ought to be leaving. Lord Van Zeeks, would you care to accompany me? Certainly. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me once again to express my deep gratitude to you. I believe you saved my life.
Wait, Lord Van Zeeks.
Yes?
What are you intending to do now?
Same shit I do every day. Well, clearly, I shall have to resign from the prosecutor's office.
Oh, okay. Oh, no.
I intend to publicize the full truth about the professor case. Once that's done, the Van Zeeks family will be ostracized completely from London society.
Surely not.
So as soon as I am free from my employment, I shall leave the capital.
Oh, I see. Don't be a fool. Are those the actions of a man once feared as the mighty Reaper of the Bailey?
I beg your pardon.
For the past 10 years, you've endured that pseudonym and been cast as one of the dark forces yourself. Now that you've finally been freed from that disrepute, your battle is just beginning, surely.
Well, I certainly never expected to hear those words from your lips.
I waited a very long time to come to London. Now I'm properly here, I intend to learn all that I can. Anyway, goodbye for now, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. You know, you can just call me Ryu. We're like best friends. I'm gonna call you Kaz. Kazuma Asogi. It seems as though he's really matured suddenly.
He's not the only one who's matured, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, I think we should make our way back to Baker Street. We must help Iris with tonight's dinner.
We must. It was then that I came to an important decision about my future. I would have a kid, and then that kid was gonna have a kid, and that kid was gonna have a kid, and eventually down the line, one of them was gonna name their kid fucking Phoenix, and we make a whole fucking series about it, and it'd be great. That's what I decided. I'm home. Hey, hey, what's up, Gina? About time you got here. We've been waiting ages, all you. What are you doing with that colorful piece of history? Thank you, Post. It's a party, ain't it? Gotta go off with a bang. I mean, fireworks, ideally. When you ain't got fire, smoke's the next best thing, ain't it? There's a girl on Fresno Street who could help you with that, I think. Right. I'll remember that. You probably shouldn't have told Gina that. You don't have to reload that thing every time I speak. You really must hear this. It's quite the extraordinary thing. I assure you, it will defy your expectations. Take down every detail now, Mikotara. The world-famous great detective, regaling his partner with the tale of his adventure. A sight to behold. Would you hazard to guess? Where do you suppose the fiendish runaway had concealed himself? Would you believe? Inside the trunk I found abandoned in his cabin.
I would believe it, yes.
I say, Mikotara, I detect not a hint of surprise. You guys were there together.
I wonder why that is. Maybe because I was there at the scene as well, Soames.
What? You were? Then why the deuce didn't you say so before? Not quite the sight I was expecting to behold, but still. It's quite hard not to feel privileged to see it. Hello, Mr. Shums, Professor Mikotaba, finally back from the Bailey. Not a moment too soon. A feast prepared by Iris and Miss Susato awaits.
Well, I must say, I haven't seen Susato looking so happy in a very long time.
Ah, Ryuno, there you are. Dinner's on the table, everyone. Please do come and take a seat. Time to fill my boots. You can just put it in your mouth, actually. You don't... Food in the chew is not good. It's gonna get you all dirty. Go put your foot in there. It's not good. Don't do it. Yep, I'm losing my copper's crop and going back to what I know best. It's a diver's life for me. No, Gina, no! You're really leaving the police force, but why, Ginny? Well, the boss ain't around no more, so... Oh. Anyway, no matter what I try, my right bank never gonna accept up a diver to a deck, eh? Well, actually, Reaper's gone, so it's fine. Well, people can change, you know? Ah, yes, that reminds me. He's gonna hire Gina! I rather thoughtfully offered to relieve the bailiff of this now defunct piece of evidence. It's the inspector's pocket watch, and the crown has been reattached.
That watch was his pride and joy, a symbol of his great achievements at Scotland Yard. For 10 years without fail, it measured every second of the man's remarkable career.
But now, it's stopped. Someone needs to keep the memory of Inspector Gregson's career alive by taking on the great responsibility of finding that watch every single day again. Yes, someone with an equally fierce detective spirit. I know, it's gonna be, I know who it's gonna be, guys. I know who it's gonna be. Can you guys guess? It's Toby. Oh, Gina, you? Okay, fine. I was gonna give it to Toby, but alright. I guess opposable thumbs help with winding a watch, you know. That's fine then. Toby will be second in command. It's fine. We'll accept it. I mean, after all, the boss was... Well, he was my boss. Yes, Ginny. Yes, he was. Oh, yeah. I made you a promise and all, didn't I, Iris? That I'd become a proper detective one day and track down your old man. About that. Alright, sure. Alright, then it's decided. I'll do it. I swear. I'll find your dad and bring him kicking and screaming. I'm not entirely sure that would be appropriate. Yeah, I think, Gina, it might be best to... Well, I think I'd like you to forget that promise, Ginny. Huh? Iris? Well, obviously I've always wondered about who my real daddy is. Of course I have. I wanted to know where I've come from. I thought it might tell me something about myself.
He sure does. You're technically aristocracy.
But I've caused such a lot of trouble trying to find out for so many people. Hurley, Bruno, Professor Mickey.
Oh, no, not at all, my dear. Really, you owe no apology to anyone.
Well, anyway, I've decided to give up on it. Because I finally realized my daddy is the greatest in the world. I don't think it matters what his name or where he is from.
He's the professor.
Don't you agree? Hurley?
This is Daddy.
With every word, Iris.
Thank you, Hurley. Thank you, Daddy.
Well, I have mixed feelings about a 10-year-old girl I live with calling me Daddy. But that will do, I suppose. I think Mikotaba.
Yes, Soames?
I think that I ought to express my gratitude to you.
Oh,
For 6 years, you and I solved many a mystery together, and during that time I remember countless expressions of gratitude for our good services. But a moment ago, I heard the most pleasing expression of gratitude of them all, and I should never have experienced it, were it not for you.
you old softy, Soames. But I must confess, it's a weight off my mind to hear you say it.
Well then, I think this calls for a lengthy violin recital, wouldn't you say?
Oh, well, the food would go cold, that's the only problem. Maybe next week, Hurley?
Are you sure a week is long enough, Iris?
Even amidst the most troubling of cases, even reeling from the most shocking of revelations, returning in the evening to this suite of rooms, there is always warmth and happiness to be had. The home of the world's greatest detective, and my home too, with my greatest family. This attic room has been my home and office for almost a year now. I've certainly had some unforgettable experiences whilst I've lived here. But I think now the time has come. Time to bid this place farewell. Naruhodo.
Naruhodo,
Oh, Professor.
are you alone? I didn't hear any sound from Zato's room.
Yes, Sato-san went out after dinner. She took a carriage. Something about an important matter she needed to take care of.
Ah, I see. I wanted to thank you for what you did earlier.
Oh?
With Iris, I mean. When the subject of her father came up.
Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
I made up my mind many years ago never to tell her who her real father was. It's what was agreed with Genshin after all.
Lord Clint Van Zeeks' final wishes before he died, you mean?
Yes, I've had to take some rather drastic steps at times to protect that secret, you know. Calling Suzato back to Japan 6 months ago, for example.
Huh? That's why.
When I read Soseki-san's report about his final days in London, my heart nearly stopped. You'd stumbled across the crux of that terrible case, the dog's collar. The description of the Baskervilles insignia left me no doubt. Baskerville. If you decided to investigate that insignia, sooner or later you'd have made the connection to Van Zeeks. And to make matters worse, Suzato knew of the unpublished story as well. The story that Iris had written based on my notes from the time.
Ah, yes, the Hound of the Baskervilles.
Exactly. It was a work of fiction, but based on the grim reality of a huge beast of a dog being used as a murder weapon. A dog with the Baskerville family emblem around its neck. Armed with those two clues, I feared you and Suzato might arrive at the truth. So I invented that story about having collapsed to justify her leaving London and returning to Japan at once. All in aid of halting any investigations you and she might have been contemplating.
I see. Something I've never understood is why Suzato-san came across that manuscript in Japan, though. You know, Iris is the Hound of Baskerville's story
I mean...
Sholmes sent it to me. That was before Susato left Japan. He was very troubled about what should be done about it, you see. I had read it and carelessly left it on my desk, which is where Susato came across it, of course. It was the only case Sholmes and I ever pursued that I didn't record in meticulous detail. I was stunned when I discovered that young Iris had pieced together so much of my paltry notes. Sholmes and I discussed the matter and decided that we couldn't allow the story's publication. At that point, I returned to the manuscript by post to Sholmes for safekeeping.
So you did all that to stop Iris from finding out the truth about her father?
That's right, because Sholmes had told me how astute she'd become. However, having witnessed events in court today, I must say my opinion has somewhat shifted.
Oh?
I think at some point in the future, the time will come for Iris to know the truth. And when it does, well, I believe it will be for the best.
I think so too. Actually, Professor, I wanted to talk to you about something too.
Judging from that expression, I'd say you've come to a decision, have you?
Yes, I have. I will be returning with you to Japan.
Are you quite sure?
I'm really only here as a substitute for Kazuma. But he's here in Britain now, as originally intended. Locum student Naruhodo doesn't really have a right to stay, I think.
I see.
Looking back now, when I first... You know, so much fucking shit had happened, I forgot that he asked him to come back to Japan. I straight up forgot that was even a part of the fucking story because of all the shit that went down. My becoming a lawyer just seemed to be the way things turned out. With Kazuma, Susato-san, and Mr. Sholmes all gently pushing me in that direction. I've spent the best part of a year immersed in this world, but always aware of a seed of doubt inside me. Until today. Standing in that courtroom earlier, all doubts vanished from my mind. I was totally focused. I was sure of my belief in my client, and I was sure I could see the trial through. And at the end of it, I finally realized no one else chose this path for me. I chose it myself.
The path of a defense lawyer, eh?
Yes, that's what I am now. That's what I'll be going back with you as Japan as. And that's the path I'll be following for the rest of my life.
Well, it sounds like you've made quite a resolution there.
I have.
Very well then. I must say it's extremely welcome news. I shall make arrangements for your return first thing tomorrow, but I don't imagine we'll depart for a few days.
Not with the symposium having been cancelled now. Such a shame.
Never mind. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities in the future. Well then, I'll bid you a good night.
Oh! She was there. Susato-san. I just wanted to let you know I'm back. Did you, hear what your father and I were discussing? I'm sorry, I did, yes. I couldn't help but... Oh, how much did you hear? Well, from the part about Iris's real father, I think. In other words, from the beginning. So you've made up your mind. You'll return to Japan and continue working as a defense lawyer. Yes. I'm sorry. I really should have consulted you about it. I did want to earlier this evening, actually. But you'd already gone out. Oh no, that's quite alright. I already knew that it's what you'd decide, Naruhodo-san. You did?
No! They're supposed to get married and have kids that become Phoenix Wright eventually.
Yes? I suppose this means that it has to be farewell soon. I suppose. You'll be a great help to Cosmo going forward. I mean, I know he's a brilliant lawyer, but he's new to the British courtroom. He'll certainly benefit greatly having a brilliant judicial assistant at his side. I'll do my very best. I wish I could say it, but I just can't. I can't ask her to come with me. After all, she was always supposed to be coming to Britain as Cosmo's assistant. It's growing late. We should both try to get some sleep. I'm sure you must be exhausted after today. Oh, yeah. You're right. Before I retire, let me just say one more time. You really were quite splendid in court today. So if you ask me, anyone who thinks of you as a substitute or a locum should be ashamed of themselves. Suzato-san. Thank you.
Maya who? Maya fucking who? Bro, Suzato, best assistant. No questions asked. All questions answered.
I can't believe this day has finally come. You're really leaving then, Runo? I'm afraid so, Iris. Thank you so much for everything. I don't know what I'll do without your wonderful cooking and delicious tea. Oh, I wish you weren't going. But you have to come back and visit. Say you will. Of course. I promise.
Well, it was a very brief reunion, but it was a pleasure to pursue a case with you again after so long. For a while at least, it felt like old times.
Yes, I suppose on reflection, there's something to be said for it. Having a little fun once in a while.
I'll just go and say goodbye to the professor as well, I think. Alright, Iris, you do that.
Oh, boom, boom, boom.
Susato-san.
I've just checked, Naruhodo-san. Your luggage is already on board. Such a beautiful morning. Perfect for embarking on a journey, isn't it?
Before I set off, I'd just like to say how thankful I am for everything you've done for me. And give my warmest regards to Kazuma, please.
Actually, I think you ought to give him your regards in person, don't you?
Sorry?
Is he here?
Ryunosuke.
He's here!
Kazuma! What are you doing here?
Do you really think I'd miss my best friend's departure?
Thanks. To be honest, I'd been looking forward to our wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's capital. But,
Well, we'll have to save that for another time. Personally, I'm looking forward to facing you in court again.
Me too. But, we're both defense lawyers, so,
He's
I'm
like, you
going to
fucking
become a
what?
prosecutor. I'll stay in Lord Van Zeek's tutelage for the time being, but before long, I intend to be just as formidable as the Reaper himself.
Are we still calling him
I
that?
see.
Actually, Ryunosuke, I have a favor to ask.
Name it.
Oh shit! We
I'd
getting
like
Karuma?
To take care of this for me for a while.
Karuma? Why?
Because I've seen it now. I've seen what's inside me. The demon that reared its ugly head that day. It was only for the briefest of moments. The last time I came face to face with that inspector. But it was unmistakable. I wanted to kill him. I've always known there are demons that live inside people. And now I know there is one in me. The fact that it very nearly consumed me is something I'll carry with me. until the end of my days, while I devote my life to fighting those whose demons have got the better of them. As a prosecutor.
So, that's what you've resolved to do, is it?
Until I'm ready to face the demon within me, to slay it once and for all. I leave this in your care, if you'll take it.
Of course I will. I'll keep it by my side. Always.
Who's chopping onions? Who's the bastard chopping onions in my house? I should be home alone.
Until we meet again, then. You have your path to follow, and I have mine.
Oh man, I don't want to break the mood right now, but I just thought of a fucking like a creepypasta of a fucking cryptid that comes into your house in the middle of the night when you're all alone and just starts fucking chopping onions. Just starts fucking chopping onions in your house to make you cry. It's a good cryptid.
Naruhodo-san?
Please come with, please. You guys need to have kids and have Phoenix Wright as a
you're
kid.
going to follow from now on.
She's coming with, right? She's Phoenix's great grandma. Please.
I wonder if I might follow it at your side.
Yes!
Unless I'd be a burden.
Yes! This is what we've been waiting for!
What? I mean, I would very much like you to come with me. But aren't you...
Nah, he's gay as fuck.
You're so predictable, Ryunosuke.
I am?
Honestly, you never change at all. But that's what I like about you.
You mean you knew about this?
It was the evening after Lord Van Zeek's trial came to an end. She came to see me at the prosecutor's office.
Really? Or when I had that conversation with Professor Mikotoba?
Is Mikotoba? I've been saying it wrong for 2 whole
you go with
games.
Ryunosuke back to Japan.
Yes. I know it's unfair of me to follow my own interests like this.
Coming here especially to tell me. You're a stickler for etiquette, aren't you? Well, what are his feelings?
We've never discussed it, of course, and Naruhodo-san has made no such suggestion. I worry that perhaps I'd be a burden to him.
He's just as much of a stickler for etiquette as you are. He'd never say anything before he was asked. But I'd feel happy knowing you were with him. Look out for him on my behalf, will you?
Of course.
Susato-san.
What do you think, Naruhodo-san?
With you by my side, no trial would seem too daunting. So if you're willing, I'd be honored if you'd come with me. Together we can take on the world.
Let's do it.
I'm terribly incompetent, but if you'll have me, I'd be delighted.
Oh, no, not at all. If anyone's terribly incompetent, it's me. Ah!
What's wrong?
Your luggage, Susato-san. There's no time. The ship's going to set sail any minute now.
It's all right. There's no need to worry. As it happens, my luggage is already on board too.
It is?
Your fine judicial assistant has everything in hand as always, I see.
Ryuno! Your ship's about to leave!
Time to go then. Look after yourself, Ryunosuke.
Kazuma, draw your sword.
Oh, they're gonna fucking sword fight. They're pulling their dicks out. They're gonna do it.
One day, when our paths cross, once more, we'll fight a duel of words across the courtroom. A day I eagerly await as a lawyer.
I've been waiting to hear you say that, partner.
Don't forget me then, Kazuma.
As if I could, Ryunosuke.
And Mr. Sholmes, thank you so much. I'm very much indebted to you.
Indeed, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe you are.
I'll never forget all you've done for me during my time in London.
Quite. I should like to think you will remember your debt of gratitude. Especially when I visit you in your country. What? The truth is, although many are ignorant of the fact, the world is far smaller than most folk realize.
Well, I'd be delighted if you came to Japan one day.
Oh yes! Would welcome you with open arms, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, that sounds wonderful! I can't wait!
In that case, let us conclude that this is to be merely a brief parting, my dear fellows.
And that brings us to the end of my adventures in Great Britain. A peculiar twist of fate brought me halfway around the world those many months ago. But that was just the start of my journey. Who knows where fate will lead me next? Still, I'm confident this won't be my last meeting with the friends I've made in London.
Oh no, Post!
And when we're together...
Not the Titanic! Oh
No doubt, the first words I'll hear will be...
This is so sad. Now Phoenix will never...
Come, the game is afoot.
The game is afoot.
That's it.
The ship, with our friends
Never mind,
from the
it's
east,
not it.
sailed steadily towards the distant horizon. But Sholmes' face was alight with joy. The times may change, but a steadfast friendship will remain true, Wilson. We have but to gently close our eyes, and we are with our companions once more.
So, I do just that. And when I do, I can hear his strong, familiar voice ring out.
Objection!
Objection!
Hell yeah.
Until we meet again, Runo.
The Great Ace Attorney! 2. Resolve.
Is it possible to play this game badly or wrong? No. I mean, even when you, like, if you present the wrong piece of evidence enough times, it, like, sort of sends you back to that query, but, like, you can't.
I'm no purveyor of electrical goods or the promised closed court secrecy. Anyway, I've decided an absence from London is in order.
I'll get right back to you.
Sojourn in distant climes. The Empire of Japan, perhaps. I understand that wardrobe class incurs no charge whatsoever.
But yeah, no, I highly recommend it. I think you'd love these games, Post. They're a lot of fun. They're a very good story.
I gave a little note to Hurley the other day. It just said, "Thank you for everything, Daddy." But it made Hurley cry. I gave him some lotion I had ventured as well, to dye his hair red safely. But he said that might make him cry too, so he'd rather not use it.
Now these are like visual novels. There is some like logic and deduction, and you can get it wrong, but even if you get it wrong all the way, it's like not that big of a deal, and it just lets you try again.
In those days when I was known as the Reaper, I felt your presence at my side. Once, unable to bear the burden of that grim pseudonym, I even retired from the courtroom. Despite everything, I still wear your prosecutor's badge with pride. But the darkness that once beset me is no more, as you too are no more. In the words of a young foreign friend of mine, I must stride forward toward a brighter future.
In fact, Post, you may remember many months ago. There he is. He's Toby.
The boss left a note for me, you know? I can read every letter now. A to Z, the whole lot. He's cleared a load of stuff up. The boss was trying to protect me, see? And that's exactly what me and Chief Inspector Toby are going to keep doing for Londoners. I only wish I could have said how grateful I was before he, you know.
But yeah, I recommended that you play this game back when I was just starting it out. I was like, Post, I think you'd really like this. And that stands true. In fact, it stands more true now. Because I think this is probably potentially my favorite game in the series now.
The truth is, I'm not the FC. You might be a diver, but it's a go hard. You remind me I need to be true to myself.
Yes, I recommended it to you both, and I still do.
Got one more job to take care of before I start out of London for the foreseeable. Then, I gotta complete your education in the outer detection a la Gregson, as they say.
I miss Gregson. I think you guys should. I think you guys should play it. I think it's very worthwhile. Very little has been spoiled to you from what you've been here.
Ouchie! Your Excellency, this man is accused of illegal entry into the...
Objection! Oblique overstatement overruled. The ministry has been detained and printed anyway.
Who's this caddish counsel for the defense? And women are forbidden to enter the courtroom. Oh, really? My friend Suzato-san is in the British courtroom all the time and doing a wonderful job. Perhaps I should have engaged the services of a regular legal team.
What did you do this time, Hosonaga? We never find out why he was coughing up blood. I want a sequel about Hosonaga. Hosonaga Detective Adventures.
Mama, is it true about Japanese people? Are they experts at filleting corpses? Yes, they are. Fish corpses on the whole. I'd like to hone my own filleting skills. You don't mind, do you, Mama? Yes, I do. I'm not a corpse yet, am I? No. And I'm glad.
What a lovely interaction between mother and daughter. Can I fillet you? No, I'm not dead. That's good. Stop. That's me and my mom.
Here I am again in Great Britain on the invitation of my dear old university friend. He sent me a very nice letter saying he'd like to show me around now that everything was settled. But what have I done? I was so excited I picked this splendid hotel and now I can't afford the bill! Oh, Barrack, come to my rescue again, please! I wish I could just vanish into thin air sometimes.
Oh, hell yeah, 2 spells.
When I went to make the waxwork impression of the killer of the cemetery, I realized what had happened. But even in the witness stand in the highest court of the land, I could never speak of it.
Fuck, she's so hot, bro.
The Lord Chief Justice and I had struck a bargain, you see. For a faithful reproduction of the visage, there is nothing we 2 spells would not do.
Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by, you know. Oh, Enoch is gonna show up.
Everyone calls me a pepino, and I sell the spaghetti. It's more than my head. Everyone, they call me... No, I cannot do it. This is ridiculous. Oh, Daly, how charming. You made lots of new friends here, I see.
Yes. And when we're released, we're all going to strike it rich together. You're right, Enoch Trevor is gonna show up. He's gonna show up. It's look who it is! It's look who it is! Give him to me, give him to me, give me the man! Give me the man! No! Where's Enoch? When I was accepted as a foreign study tour, I knew exactly. I guess he's in jail. I don't know. However it might have ended, I knew that I wanted you to see it. If I had ended up in the dock, there's no one I would have rather had defending me. But now, thanks to you, there's a new path I want to take. I'm sure we'll meet again in the courtroom, my friend. Until then, I leave Karma in your care. Cool, cool, cool. He's over. And now to the important character, Enoch Drebber, right? That's definitely not the last one. Enoch. Come on, no! This is so sad. I guess he was technically a villain. They didn't show off the killers, and he was a killer. Once we arrive in Japan, you shall be busy establishing your new office. I'm so delighted to be accompanying you. After all, your talents have been recognized by a great detective. No? Was he not? Who did it? Oh, it was Scythe, you're right. Because you really are the greatest of lawyers, a great ace attorney, if you will. Yeah, it was Scythe, yeah. Damn, that's sad. No Enoch. No Enoch moment. Enoch is maybe one of my favorite Phoenix Wright characters of all time. He's so good. And the music is so good. And there's Enoch Drebber in the background. Look at him. There he is in the back. He's peering over Kazuma's right shoulder. Wakahai! Wakahai was there! And no Shamspear either. True, they left out some good ones. This is Big Sag. Alright, well that is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. That is technically The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. But overall, that is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And, I mean, fantastic. Wakahai is back! Oh, what's his name? Fucking taking many memo. Case closed. Case closed. This is a fantastic game. Fantastic set of games. I would probably say they're my favorite in the series. There are a couple that come pretty close. Trials and Tribulations comes pretty close. Dual Destinies comes pretty close, but I do just think this is better. Had a great time playing it. I'm very looking forward to starting some other stuff up pretty soon. There's so many games that are just sort of coming to my list that I just need to get through. To the point where I have so many games at the top of my list, I don't even know what I want to do next. I'll be honest. I don't know what we're playing next week. Am I even in town next week? Next Friday the 27th? Okay, next... Oh, Shamspear, there he is. We will be streaming next week, but then I'm probably going to have to take 2 weeks off because I will be out of town on... it's so sicky. On a work trip. And Wakahai, there he is! There's Enoch! Enoch! I love you! I'm so horny for Enoch, holy shit. Oh, and I'm so horny for Tispels as well. She's also very hot. Okay. Yeah. No, so yeah, we will... God, since I'm gonna be taking a 2-week break, I kind of don't want to start a new series, so maybe we'll do a one-off next week. I'm not sure. Eventually though. Oh, she was cute too. Damn it! Why did I put so many cute characters in this game? Oh, and him. Show him. Oh, there he is. That big fucking beefcake of a man. Bro! It's Pepino. Good times. And yeah, post for your information. I mean, I'm playing this on Steam. It is available on Steam. It is also available on Twitch. Not available on Switch. Toby moment. Stop dancing, you guys. So if that's more your style, Who will switch? I love to switch. A male strong heart. Thanks for clapping. Push him over, Ryunosuke. Push him over. Push him over. Just tip him. Just tip him backwards, please. Ah, I thought maybe Iris would do it. You know, maybe Iris just. Boop. And Sholmes is back. Now he's done with his dance party. Yep, alright, so yep, that is the game. I got nothing else to say. I will be back. Who's been touching dicks? Don't know what we're doing next week. Genuinely. It's like, what if I just don't stream next week? But then I'll just have like a month of no streams, and that'd be kind of ridiculous. So I will stream something, I just don't know what yet. And we're gonna take a break. It's been wonderful playing this game. I know we took a couple of really long breaks. We took a huge break after finishing the first game, and then we took a couple of breaks in the middle of the second game because something came out that we wanted to. It was Pokemon Legends Arceus came out, and we wanted to play through that. But yeah. Next on the docket, shit. There's so much, man. Gotta play the fuck. We never got around to Deltarune Chapter 2. There's the new Kirby game. There's probably some other stuff too that I'm not thinking of right now. I know there's several games on Steam. Oh, there's Inscription. There's so many games I've bought specifically because I want to stream them, and I just have not. There's so many games, dude. When you stream one time a week, bro, there's no time. There's no time. Anyways, thank you all. Have a wonderful night. It is midnight. Goddamn, I need to go work on some R&R stuff. I also need to eat some food. Thank you all so much for joining, and I will see you next week, probably maybe with something completely different. It will not be a Phoenix Wright game, which I'm pretty happy about. Very happy with this game. Kind of Phoenixed out for the moment. Ready to move on to something else with a little bit more gameplay, a little bit less clicky. Do want to play something. But until then, I will see. Actually, it might end up being an extra week anyways that I don't stream, depending on what happens with the next R&R session. Anyways, good night. Have a wonderful one. Bye-bye.